to you from the great city of Austin, Texas, and Phoenix, Arizona. And today we're going to be going over the draft power rankings, and we're going to be going over each team's position as far as how many picks they have, the value of where those picks are at, and then we're also going to preview a mock draft from round one and go over which teams have the most to gain and lose from this year's draft. We're talking about this year could be a half decade or decade changer for some of these teams. Then we're also going to be going over the history of the NBA playoffs dating back to the 2019 year, where the Toronto Raptors started a consecutive where teams have not won a back-to-back championship since that 2019 Raptors teams won. Then we're also going to be going over some breaking news as well. So definitely going to be a great show. Don't want to miss it. And how was your Easter? Haven't seen you since last week. Looks like you got around Arizona a little bit, going to Tombstone. I believe it was Bisbee and Tucson. That's a place.
Yeah, Tucson. Nothing much to say about Tucson. I had the original chimichanga. That was cool. Tombstone, if you've seen any Western movie ever, I was there. Basically, if you've been to Valentine and Red Dead Redemption, you've been to Tombstone. Pretty much the same layout. I'm actually sipping on some Cowboy Cola as we speak, thanks to Mr. Earp himself. But really cute towns. Tombstone's a classic Western town that's kind of more like touristy now. And then Bisbee is kind of like a classic, if you've been to New Hampshire, like a classic North Conway build. Kind of a cozy, quaint town, but really cute. Like half an hour from Mexico, but really liked it. Good road trip overall with the boys. We got Ray Mizzle in there. But yeah, I definitely had a nice little adventure. Pretty much have seen all of Arizona now.
Shout out, Ray. Yeah, you just got to get up to Lake Powell now. And that's right on the border of Utah, so it's a little bit up there, but definitely think you'd like that. Then you have to go to Arizona as well.
I drove by Arizona. I didn't go into Arizona, but I saw Arizona on the way to the canyon.
Okay. Then you have to have, what's the place that makes the massive pancakes, too?
Oh, that's in Gilbert. Yeah, I got to go there. I'm going to take somebody there at some point.
So, had you seen the movie Tombstone before? Because I know there is a movie called Tombstone. I don't know if it's a John Wayne or a Clint Eastwood movie. If you're talking about westerns, it's really a coin flip between those two, especially from that era. But have you seen like any of the Tombstone movies or any movies that were filmed there before?
So before I left, I actually watched Tombstone, the movie, which is just
Okay.
talking about like the history of it. And it has like the outlaws. I believe we had Kirk Douglas in there, and then um, that was kind of the main cast. But just a classic western. I also watched a Sergio Leone movie, who he's kind of like the godfather of westerns, like westerns, just pretty much spaghetti westerns. He kind of like mastered it. So I watched A Fistful of Dollars with
Mm.
him. So I got into the westerns a little bit. Plus, I was just kind of learning about the cities themselves. In Tombstone, they were mostly made with. They had a big copper mine, and then silver for Tombstone, and then copper for Bisbee. And copper ended up prevailing as far as like that industry, and silver kind of crashed pretty soon after Tombstone was created. So you can kind of tell, but really cool towns. If you ever do a road trip across Arizona, seeing Bisbee, Tombstone, you could probably skip Tucson, go to Phoenix, go to Sedona, go to Flagstaff, go to the Canyon, see Seligman. But it's just interesting. Like Arizona as a state, there's just so much to see here, even if you're just kind of driving through it.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot to do, and it's a diverse state. I've driven through it top to bottom. You have like forest at the top. Then you also have your canyon lands as well. You have the Grand Canyon. Lake Powell is a very unique place. And then when you drive through towards New Mexico, you have Saguaro National Forest. So there's a lot of different things to do. And I'm looking at the cast for Tombstone. It's kind of stacked. You have Val Kilmer, who's Doc Holliday. Kurt
Mhm.
Russell as Wyatt Earp. Samuel Elliott is in this movie. Billy Bob Thornton is also in this movie, a 1993 movie. He plays Johnny Tyler. Bill Paxton as well, and I believe Bill Paxton, isn't he the president in was it Independence Day? I
I
think.
believe so. That checks
Yeah.
out.
So this is a stack. Tech. Oh, he's in Twister. That's what it is.
Yeah, but it's a good western. I don't know how I'd rank it across some of the more classic westerns, but I mean, it tells exact. I mean, it's shot in Tombstone. It tells the story of Tombstone. So if you ever make your way to Tombstone, I definitely recommend checking this out first.
Yeah, I need to watch that genre of westerns because I grew up watching like The Lone Ranger and Roy Rogers and Bonanza, which is like the OG westerns. I feel like, especially that was Hollywood when it was still pretty young, but I haven't gotten into like the John Wayne, like Clint Eastwood era. Kind of just skip forward to like the Quentin Tarantino modern day Western ones, but definitely was one of my favorite genres of movies. So definitely a place I want to check out eventually. Was it Tombstone itself like a touristy type of town? Did it feel like the Stockyards, or was it a little bit more chill than that?
So, if I compare it to other Arizona towns that are built like it, there's like Goldfield Mine, which is super corny in my opinion. You have Tortilla Flats, which is still pretty touristy, but not nearly as bad. Of all the towns I've visited in Arizona that I expected to be kind of touristy, this was surprisingly the least amount, and everyone kind of marketed it like it was the most touristy. But I mean, there's shops there. You have like the daily shootouts that they recreate every day.
Okay.
But for the most part, they had like the oldest saloons in Arizona are pretty much all in Tombstone. And we went to Big Nose Kate Saloon, which is the oldest in Arizona. Plus, they also had like the Palace Saloon there, and then there was pretty much you pretty much at like a block of all these old saloons, and they are for the most part pretty well kept. Big Nose Kate still felt like it was an older saloon, while some of the other ones felt like they kind of modernized it a little bit. Which kind of I feel like with a saloon, I'd rather it be old and rusty than it be this brand new polished saloon. So Big Nose Kate, I would shut that out. That was really good.
Okay, so they do like shootings and stuff downtown. Is this like a town you go to? You're like everyone here commutes to work from out of the town, or can people live there?
People live there, but not a lot. I mean, it's a small enough town that people could live there, but it's also there's not really much around Tombstone. So you're kind of just from Tombstone to Tucson, it's like an hour. So a lot of people commute from Tucson to go to Tombstone to do their work, but nobody really lives in Tombstone.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But it's a neat little town. Um, if you ever make a trip to southern Arizona, Tombstone's a spot that, of all the three places, I think that one is, especially if you're a Red Dead fan, that's a place you go.
Oh, for sure. Definitely captures the vibe there. It's like Red Dead has like the couple very distinct feels. Like you have Blackwater, which feels more kind of southern Texas almost, and then you have the towns where it's pretty much up in the mountains, so you get like the best of both worlds there. So definitely check out Tombstone at some point. Were you able to watch Hop for Easter at all, or did you pass on that this year?
No, I feel like every Easter I'm always traveling unexpectedly. Like I don't plan around Easter. The last two Easters prior, I was in Austin with you, and then this Easter, unexpectedly, we just had Ray's birthday, so he came out from San Diego, and it was Easter. We were like, oh shit, I didn't even know it was Easter. So 3 consecutive years I've traveled for Easter unexpectedly. So I did not get to watch Hop.
Well, definitely sounds like a good time. Speaking of signings and money being spent in holidays, Trayvon Walker had a good day today. It was announced that the Jacksonville Jaguars signed pass rusher Trayvon Walker to a 4 year, $110 million extension. And this is with 27 and a half sacks over his first 4 seasons. When you saw this, what was your first reaction?
Overpay? I feel like Trayvon Walker has been pretty much a bust. If you're looking at that 2022 draft, you have Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau is in that same draft as well. Those two guys I feel like have been having better careers so far than Trayvon Walker. So him getting 100 plus million, I mean he hasn't the last few years he's rebounded a little bit from his shaky first year so far, but I thought it was a huge overpay. You're paying him basically $27 million a year for a guy who I wouldn't consider to be an elite edge rusher by any means.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's necessarily a elite edge rusher. Last year, he had 3.5 sacks, and they're essentially saying we are willing to chalk that up to injuries. It was the first year that he wasn't healthy. The previous seasons, he had double-digit sacks, and this is his worst year since his rookie year. And now they're essentially gambling on him and having a stable linebacking core and the salary cap, because with them paying him this year, instead of having to pay him, say, $32 million dollars if the cap goes up again, they're essentially going to be paying him $27.5 million dollars a year with this one. And then they're converting his contract this year mostly into a signing bonus. The thing though with this one is you're now paying 20% of your cap to Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. So you have 20% of your cap going to your defensive line and the edge rusher, and their general manager's philosophy is that big games and Super Bowls are won in the trenches. The problem with that, though, is you're going to be paying him top tier money for the next year or two and 20% of your cap to the same position. And you've already had to let Travis Etienne and Devin Lloyd go in free agency. And now, if one of those players gets injured, your team becomes pretty fragile, because we're already seeing how the Trevor Lawrence contract is aging. And you really just paid Trevor based off of upside. And now you're also proving, again, now Trayvon Walker based on his upside, where he did have 2 solid years. And if you waited another year, you're risking having to overpay him, but you're also, you know, not having to pay 20% of your cap to two guys where, say, he does have injury issues or struggles again next year. Now, what are you going to do? If one of those guys gets hurt, your defense is going to get shredded.
Yeah. I don't like the signing, especially if you add Trevor Lawrence to that mix. You have a third of your contract money going towards three players who, in none of those positions, are top 10 in their respective positions. Maybe Josh Hines Allen, but other than that, like Trayvon Walker is not a top 10 edge rusher, and Trevor Lawrence is not a top 10 quarterback. So you're paying top 10 money for guys who are not top 10 players, in my opinion. So that's my biggest gripe with it. But Trayvon, I mean, 10 plus sacks, 2 consecutive years. He has the upside for it. So the reason he was taken number one, but it's gonna end up being an overpay, most likely.
Yeah, it could be an overpay, and then it's like 20% of your cap going to two guys, and already having to let people go over this. I get Travis Etienne wanted to go home and go back to New Orleans, but you also had to now give up on Devin Lloyd and let him go sign somewhere else. And now you're essentially saying if we can't hit on our drafts, we're not going to be very good over the next 5 to 10 years, especially with Trevor's deal. And they would rather overpay for Trayvon Walker this year than have to pay him even more money next year with the salary cap going up again. So if they didn't pay him, it's probably going to look at $32 million. And their coach is now challenging him to be. Liam Cohen said he wants him to have the motor of Aaron Donald because he coached in LA. Aaron Donald is a physical freak. I don't know where he's getting that from, but he challenged Trayvon Walker, and Trayvon Walker now said, "Oh, I got paid. Now it's time to go out there and ball out." It's like, okay, wait. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, shouldn't you want him to ball out the season before you pay him? It's like you still gave him the most amount of money with him having a down
Yeah,
year.
asking somebody to be Aaron Donald is like signing your rookie quarterback to be Tom Brady. It's just not fair. Aaron Donald could very well be the best edge rusher of all time. Not only the fact that he's now 3 years removed from retirement and he's still benching 150-pound bells. This man is not human. Aaron Donald is probably an alien, and if we were to do a DNA sample, he's going to be somewhere far, far away, his home planet. So having him try to be Aaron Donald, that's high. That's high expectations for a guy who's so far. Can I call him a bust? No, but can I call him a draft disappointment? Yes, to this point.
Yeah, so that will be interesting. But again, the Jaguars putting themselves in a tough position now where 20% of your cap is locked up in two players on your defensive line, and now Trevor Lawrence is making top 10 NFL money. I believe he's going to be a top 5 paid NFL quarterback next year. And he was the one who turned the ball over at the end of the game. So now you're going to have to hit on your drafts, which, the Jaguars have been okay, but I wouldn't say they're the best team at drafting in the world. We'll get to that topic next, but definitely a interesting signing. But congrats to Trayvon Walker on getting his money. Definitely want to see him do that. Over $70 million guaranteed is huge, so definitely good for him. We had one more signing too that was kind of interesting. Kirk Cousins signed with the Raiders to a $172 million contract, but it's a 1 year, $20 million fully guaranteed contract. So it was similar to when Taysom Hill signed with the Saints, and they signed him to like $120 million contract, but every single year was voidable. It's like you only have to pay him $20 million this year, which is definitely below average for a quarterback. And Kirk Cousins finished in a positive stretch with Atlanta. So if you are going to go out there and get him weapons, he has the best tight end duo in the league. You can figure it out with Ashton Genty and a solid center on your offensive line with Tyler Linderbaum. And then you don't necessarily have to pay Mendoza if you don't want to. And I feel like Kirk Cousins is going to be a solid mentor.
I love this signing a lot. I think him in Vegas, what this opens up is when they go and draft Mendoza first overall, unlike with every other first overall quarterback we've seen over the last several years, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, you don't have to throw him into the fire right away. Kirk Cousins is a guy that you can start him either a full season or even halfway through the season, and he's going to not necessarily lose you games. He's going to be solid. He's going to throw 10 touchdowns, 5 picks, maybe have a 65% completion rating. He's not going to be the reason that you lose football games. And he's a guy that is going to be able to mentor Mendoza. And then if they want to get rid of Kirk this upcoming offseason and start him come year 2, this sets Mendoza up for him to be successful, like we've seen with players like Brady coming in year 2 or Patrick Mahomes. Whether he ends up being those great players or not, we'll see. But it gives him an opportunity to sink his feet into the NFL and not immediately be sent up to have these sky-high expectations right away.
Yeah, and I think it would be a great idea to take Mendoza and then sit him on the bench for the first year of his career, because the Kansas City Chiefs decided that Mahomes was essentially going to redshirt for a year, and they're willing to sacrifice playoff success based off of that. And Alex Smith really didn't take them anywhere in the playoffs. He got them to the playoffs, but they never got to the conference championship with him or had any terribly deep runs. You have that epic collapse that Alex Smith had versus the Indianapolis Colts, where Andrew Luck led a 4-touchdown comeback, I believe, in the second half. So I think with Kirk Cousins, he proved at the end of the year last with the Falcons that he does have enough left in the tank where you're not necessarily going to be putting out the worst product in the world for the NFL. It lets this team gel a little bit, and he is someone that I definitely don't mind Mendoza sitting behind him. And even if you do suck next year with Kirk Cousins, say Kirk Cousins leads you to 6 or 7 wins, I feel like that should be the minimum. And then you also get another high draft pick next year that you can either trade for a bona fide stud at wide receiver or on defense, or you turn it into multiple draft picks, or you get another high draft pick next year. So I don't think it would be the worst idea for the Raiders to just start Kirk Cousins all year next year. Let him get you 5, 6 wins, and that's okay, because then we're going to have an even better pick next season, and then Mendoza doesn't need to get destroyed before we have our offensive line in order.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice signing because before that it was Aiden O'Connell as the other quarterback available. He's not necessarily going to be a mentor for Mendoza. So Kirk's what, 38 after this year? He's going to turn 38 this upcoming year. And he had kind of a tumultuous time in Atlanta, but all these other years he's got the Commanders experience where he brought them to some playoff wins. Get the Vikings he's been good with. So I think having him in his year, Kirk Cousins is a nice guy. I think it's a good signing overall.
Yeah, he was great on quarterback. I think a lot of people found a new appreciation for that because like some of these guys, Kirk Cousins has maximized his ability as much as possible, like especially for his like athleticism and arm talent.
Absolutely. And he's made a bag in the process. 172 million. And all of his
Yes.
contracts have been guaranteed the last decade.
Yeah, and he got another $20 million guarantee, and I believe Vegas, Nevada is one of the states that's no income tax either. So you get a little
Mhm.
bit of free $20 million. So he's going to make about $18 million from this season take home. So that'll be
Yeah,
solid.
not bad at all for Mr. Kirk.
But definitely a interesting signing. I like the Kirk Cousins one, Trayvon Walker, to be determined on how the next few years go here. But we are rapidly approaching the NFL draft, which is taking place in Pittsburgh this year. Very exciting draft. A lot of depth on the defensive line as far as edge rushers, a lot of depth if you need help on your offensive line. So we have the official power ranking from Tankathon, and we're going to be going over the value of each team. So this not only includes how many picks each team has, it factors in where those picks are at. So you may have like 11 picks, but if those take place outside the top 180, they're not necessarily the most valuable picks in the world there. So starting out at number 32, the Atlanta Falcons. They have a score of 406. Not good because I'll just give you a spoiler alert. The top team has a 1291. So already very far off from that if you're Atlanta. And that's because you don't have your first round pick this year. How did that happen, you may ask? I'm not sure. Atlanta now has pick 48, 79, 122, and then it's going to be 215 and 231. So for a rebuilding team, only having 5 picks this draft, I don't know. I don't love it. And that puts a lot of pressure on you to hit on those first 2 picks.
You know what's hilarious? You know why they don't have the first round pick? It's because they traded up last year to get James Pierce Jr.
Ooh.
And James Pierce Jr. last year, oh, he did okay. He had 10.5 sacks, but that's why they don't have a first round pick. They had swapped with the Rams. The Rams then took that pick to trade for Trent McDuffie.
Jeez. Okay. So Atlanta at the bottom. Does this surprise you? And does this change your outlook on Atlanta next year? Is it kind of just, well, Falcons should still have a good enough team now that they have Kevin Stefanski, so it shouldn't matter as much.
I'm not worried necessarily, but as far as the future of Atlanta, when they have to sign Drake London and everybody else, this draft, knowing this information doesn't make me optimistic for their long term.
Okay, so not bad, not great either. Then we move on. Denver, yes, this is their real score, is 420 for their score. It's kind of
Nice.
ironic. They have, looks like, about 7 picks this year at 62, 108, 111, 170, 246, 256, and then 257. So they only have 3 draft picks in the top 130 here. They don't have a first round pick either because they gave that up to get Jalen Waddle.
Oh, okay. I'm not worried about them this year because I feel like they're a pretty complete team. Their defense is really good. They have their franchise quarterback for the time being. And that pick that they were going to spend on the first round pick was given for Jalen Waddle, so they have guaranteed success there. Um, so I'm not worried about Denver yet either. Same goes with Atlanta. When it comes time to pay some guys, maybe they have some issues, but now they basically traded their first round pick for Jalen Waddle, who is a stud in the NFL.
Yeah, so I already know what you're getting there. And for them, you needed a surefire wide receiver. Now you have a solid trio there with Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, and Jalen Waddle. So I don't mind that at all. And you really didn't have any other weaknesses on this team outside of maybe tight ends. So Denver, 420, that is their score. And then right after Denver, the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks only have 4 draft picks this year at 32, 64, 96, and 188. And they have a lot of players they need to replace. I mean, Boye Mafe and Kenneth Walker are two pretty big pieces that you lost, and now you only have 4 draft picks to hopefully get a running back and get an edge rusher that can give you similar to production to Boye Mafe. So for me, this does concern me a little bit about Seattle's chances next season that you only have 4 picks.
Especially because I'd have to look up the statistic, but Super Bowl champions or teams coming off of the Super Bowl, that Super Bowl hangover can be a real big deal, and especially the fact that you lose 2 of your best players, more than the 2 of your best players. You also lost Reek Will and a few other guys, and you have 4 picks to replace them. If you're successful on half of them, I would consider it a good draft. But I mean, that first round pick's a gamble. Those later picks are a gamble. I'm a lot more concerned about the Seahawks now, especially with all the players they've lost come this season and beyond. So this is the first team that I'm truly actually concerned about.
All right, Seattle, you're getting the Supersonics back, but at what cost? We'll see. And at number 29, with the score of 478, we have the Green Bay Packers. The Packers do still have 7 picks, but it's pick 52, 84, 120, 160. They are left without a first-round pick because they traded for Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I don't love the Packers right now with that. For the sake that I feel like they still need a lot of offensive talent. I do like Josh Jacobs, and Christian Watson is nice when he's healthy, but they could really use a nice stud receiver because Matthew Golden last year didn't really pan out. And then defensively, they are a little bit older. Yes, they have Micah Parsons, but then they have the Javon Hargraves of the world who's older. They have Xavier McKinney who's probably out the door relatively soon. So Zaire Franklin, another guy, like they could have definitely used the talents of the future draft class, but without them, I'm still thinking they're going to be competitive in that division. But if they struggle out the gate, then these draft picks can come back and hurt them.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, especially this year when you do have such a deep edge rusher draft. It's definitely hard to get similar production to Micah Parsons, but if you can replace him on defense with a couple different players, I think that would definitely be helpful. So that was definitely going to be a gamble there, especially if he's not healthy again when it comes playoff time. As far as wide receiver, they're going to get Tucker Kraft back. So if he's healthy, it doesn't concern me as much. And then in the Bears game, it seemed like Matthew Golden really started to come alive in crunch time. So I do think he's going to have a much better second year campaign, especially with Romeo Doubs being let go than he did in his rookie year. So yeah, this just concerns me because you still do kind of have a lack of explosivity on defense, and you could have used that extra first round pick this year.
Agreed.
And coming in about 9 points higher, we have the Indianapolis Colts, who do not have their first round pick this year because they decided to trade for Sauce Gardner. They have, looks like, 7 picks as well. And they have pick 47, 78, 113, and then 156, 214, 249, and 254. So, again, only 3 picks in the top 130 for Indianapolis. And this is a team, like, their real problem is going to be the quarterback position. There's no ifs and buts about it because you can argue their defense is solid and good at times, but you need probably another solid wide receiver. Tyler Warren could be good for you, but like it really doesn't matter as long as Daniel Jones is going to be your starting quarterback.
I also don't love that defense either. I think that defense is highly overrated. I like Sauce Gardner. I like Kenny Moore. There's some other studs on that team. DeForest Buckner. But that defense is getting older, and they could definitely use some players in the draft. And they have a majority of their picks in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round on top of that. And, like you mentioned, the elephant in the room, you're paying Daniel Jones $140 million. Your backup is Anthony Richardson, and Daniel Jones is not your answer. So, therefore, of all the teams so far, the Colts are probably the most screwed.
And then at number 27, with a rating almost 100 points higher. So from 28 to 27, we get a jump of 102 points. And that team is the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo has 7 picks next year, and they have pick 26, 91, 126, 165, 168, 182, and 220.
and they haven't nailed their first round pick in over a decade. James Cook was the closest. He was a second round pick, early second round pick. I'm not worried about them this year because they have Josh Allen and they just traded for DJ Moore. But long term, again, it's a long term thing for me. Buffalo could use a lot of people on defense. They have a lot of old players on that team, and they've already had injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So that's my biggest concern. Their lack of success hitting on first round picks and on the defensive side of the ball. We're talking about the CJ Gardner Johnsons of the world. Bradley Chubb's on his third team now. Ed Oliver's old. Everyone on their defense is old. So therefore, older teams, end of the season, injuries come up. This is exactly what happened last year with Buffalo.
And it's funny you mentioned that because one mock draft I was looking at has them taking Cassius Howell, who has some concerns about his lack of length. Last person that happened to is Aiden Hutchinson, so that's a little bit iffy, but he has a good first step, but he's a edge rusher that people are a little boom or bust over, where he has a good first step, but he's someone that could be a coin flip. So if Buffalo does, in fact, take Cassius Howell, I don't think that's going to spell well for him, especially they've missed on how many first round picks now?
In a row, like at least a decade. I think the last hit was literally Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. And Josh Allen took a while to get going, too.
Yeah.
So we have the Bills at 27. Moving along to 26, we have the Chargers, who have a score of 597, which is 8 points better than the previous one. And they do have 3 picks in the top 100, 22, 55, 86, then 123 and 204. So they don't have too many picks, but they do have 3 picks in the top 100 and then 4 picks in the top 130. So I do like that for the Chargers.
Yeah, and they've been pretty good consistently drafting. Looking at their last few drafts, this past draft, they got Amari Hampton. That was a hit for them when he was healthy. And then they had Joe Alton, Lad McConkey the previous draft, Kamani Vidal, 6th-round pick that panned out really well for them this past year. And then you kind of go down the list. They're historically pretty good at drafting, so I'm not overly concerned. It just sucks that you have a Raiders team that's ascending, a Broncos team that's fresh off of an AFC championship, and then the dynasty that is the Chiefs. So like that division, that doesn't do you any favors.
Yeah, so I definitely think this is going to help them, but they should be right there with their division. They did make the playoffs last year, and their defense was really well, so it's going to be how much is it going to affect them losing Jesse Minter, and then can we go out there at 22 and get a serious running mate for Lad McConkey, because Lad McConkey post Charlie Kirk was not himself. So they definitely need to bring in some wide receiver help for Justin Herbert there. And then, you still have a offensive line to fix.
Yes, desperately.
All right. And then, so they are the last team with the score below 600. So the Chargers round that out. And then at number 25, we have the Los Angeles Rams. They have 7 total picks here. They have pick 13, then it drops all the way to 61, 93, 207, 232, 251, 252. So they have a little bit of a lower score because after pick 13, still have to wait a little bit.
I'm not worried because the Rams don't. I feel like the Rams never have picks, but yet they're always competitive. So this is a team I'm not worried about as far as their draft class. And they have the 13th overall pick. Last time they picked first round, they got Jared Verse. So I trust with the few picks that they have that they'll hit on them.
Yeah, the Rams could be pick 32. I would not be concerned at all because draft picks, what is that? We don't need that. We're going to trade them all away for talent. That's going to help us win now. So no concerns there for me. Then we move on to the Commanders, who are 14 points better than the Rams at a score of 630. At number 24, we have the Washington Commanders, who have pick 7, pick 71, pick 147, pick 187, pick 209, and pick 223. And, only 6 draft picks for this first team, for this Commanders team. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, and I feel like that 7th overall pick, it's kind of gutsy because they do need a lot of players on defense and honestly that offensive line. but their number one running back right now is Corey Krosky-Merritt. If Jeremiah Love's right there, I'm going to say his name a lot in this draft class. Jeremiah Love would be great with Jaden Daniels. You could even use another receiver alongside Terry McLaurin. That 7th overall pick, if you want to make a splash, maybe there, but this team fell apart last year. They're one of the oldest teams in the NFL, and they didn't necessarily get younger. So with that division as well, you get the Eagles, Cowboys, and the Giants who are ascending. I don't love it for the Commanders.
Yeah, for the Commanders, honestly, if there's not a surefire, we're in love with this guy. We think he's going to change our future for the next decade. At number 7, and you can trade back and create a couple more draft picks, I would do that, to be honest, because you need a couple guys on that defensive side and your offensive line, and at running back as well, a couple skill position players to really make this team younger. So I do think that if you don't have someone you love there at number 7, this would be a good team to make a trade with, and then maybe trade back in the draft.
I agree.
All right. At number 23, coming in 11 points higher than the Washington Commanders at 641, we have the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco 49ers are going to be drafting at 27, 58, 127, 133, 138, and 139. So you have 6 draft picks in this draft, and all 6 of them are in the top 150. Good for the San Fran.
They have 4 fourth-round picks. That is crazy. Another team, if I'm going to say like the Rams are good at drafting, the Niners are also very good at drafting. So yes, they don't have many picks, but they're all in the top 150, and the Niners usually hit on their drafts. So I will say I'm not concerned about the Niners.
Yeah, I feel like the 4th round is typically the gold mine of the NFL, and that's where, you have players who go undrafted. You have players taken in the last round like Tom Brady and Antonio Brown, where really, if you can just find the diamonds in the like 4th, 5th, 6th round, that's what separates a great franchise from a bad one. Now, did they pass up on them still like the first 3 rounds as well? Yes, but that's what's going to separate the great teams from the bad ones. So the fact that you do have this many draft picks in the 4th round, then you have 2 high draft picks, I definitely think the San Francisco 49ers should be better next year. So at number 23, at 641, we have the 49ers. And then with a 40-point jump at number 22, we have the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears have, let's see here, 7 draft picks as well, taken at 25, 57, 60, 89, 129, 239, and 241. So again, looks like they got about 5 draft picks in the top 130.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned. They have 2 second-round picks. Their team's pretty complete. They could use an offensive lineman, maybe some depth on defense. If you want to go out and replace DJ Moore, you're able to do that with that 1st-round pick. So not overly concerned, but this is a big draft for the Bears. If they can hit on this draft, then this team can win the division for years to come. So big draft, but I'm not overly concerned quite yet.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with the San Francisco 49ers or the Chicago Bears either. I think both these teams should have good enough drafts, and neither of them really need a ton in the draft either. You're just going out there getting depth, complementary pieces, and then kind of building your future there. And then the 49ers, like, they're young players on their defense with all those injuries. They still played really well. So definitely there. And then the Bears, they should be fine at 25 there. And then at number 21, we have the Carolina Panthers with the score of 741, and they pick at 19, 51, 83, 119, 158, 159, and 200. They have 7 picks as well.
Yeah, Carolina, another draft that's important for them. Do they draft somebody as a successor potentially for Bryce Young? I think they could also use another receiver. Their defense did take a nice step forward this past year. Offensive line could use some work as well. They have, looks like they have their first 4 rounds are solidified. But this isn't a team that's historically drafted well over the last decade, so I'm a little more concerned about them than some of the other teams we've already mentioned. Can Carolina hit on their picks? If they can win their division. If they can't, then the Panthers are what they've been the last couple of years, which is mediocre, maybe below mediocre.
Yeah, and your pick score, you're slightly below average here. And yeah, I think this is fine if you're Carolina. You need to add another receiver to Bryce Young, but I don't know if this draft is really going to make or break the next decade for them. So I think being right there at 741 is fine. And then at number 20, coming in at 7 points higher than the Carolina Panthers, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming in with a score of 749. They pick 15, 46, 77, 116, 155, 195, and 229, 7 draft picks as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of their most recent picks. They got Eme Abuka last year. He was a stud for them. Hell, even Tez Johnson was good for them. And then previous drafts, they got Bucky Irving. The previous draft, he was a hit. They've been pretty good at drafting historically. This is a team that's falling apart before our very eyes. This is a big draft for them because I feel like if this year doesn't pan out, we're probably going to see Baker Mayfield leave, in which case this team will probably be the worst team in the division.
Yeah, potentially a reunion with the Rams with Baker Mayfield if Matthew Stafford decides to retire and this falls apart. I do think, though, if they're able to get a linebacker at number 15, obviously you're not going to replace Levante David. We talked about last week how Levante David, when he retired, he's one of, you know, 2 people mentioned in a name with Ray Lewis, so you're not going to replace him. But if you can get some solid pieces on defense, definitely think this team should be back. Also, Baker Mayfield last year, I do think he was dealing with a lot of injuries. Then you also had Mbuka get injured. You had Bucky Irving get injured. So there's some chemistry issues. At the end of last season, everyone was kind of banged up. So if we do get a healthy Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, I do think we'll see the typical 10-7, 11-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers all along. And then coming in also 7 points higher at number 19, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now they have 11 picks in this draft, but they only have 4 picks in the top 130. They pick at 56, 81, 88, 100, 124, and then they go 164, 166, 203, 233, 240, and 245. So they have 4 picks in the 200s.
Yeah, a big bulk of their picks. They have 3 third-round picks, and then the rest of them are all 5, 6, 7-round picks. Another team that has not drafted historically well at all. They've been better of late. Like this past year, they drafted. We'll see what we get out of Travis Hunter, but the rest of their picks didn't really do all that much. Year prior, Brian Thomas Jr. was really good the first year. He was a stud, but kind of inconsistent otherwise the rest of the draft. Hit on Cam Little. And then 2023, their biggest hit was probably Tank Bigsby, and he's no longer on their team. So this is a draft that I'd be concerned for, especially because they just paid all of their money towards 3 players. So this is the team that could, if they have a bad draft, this team could quickly blow up within the next year.
Yeah, I definitely think like you're paying 20% of your cap to 2 edge rushers, then the rest of it is going to Trevor Lawrence. So if you don't hit on this draft, you're definitely going to be mediocre for the next few years. I think you'll be good enough to make the playoffs one year. You probably miss it for the next few, but this is going to look very similar, I feel like, to the Phillip River Chargers, but to a light degree because I don't want to disrespect those Chargers teams. I can't see the Jaguars getting to a conference championship team if they don't hit on this draft. So I do think this is going to be a consequential draft for Jacksonville this year. And then we move up another cat team here at number 18. The Detroit Lions come in with the score of 774, which is 18 points higher than the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they pick at 17, 50, 118, 128, 157, 181. And then they have 205, 213, 222 with a whopping 9 draft picks. But again, 3 of those coming in the 200s.
Yeah. team that's been really good drafting, really in the Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era. Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, Malcolm Rodriguez, Jameer Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, Terrion Arnold, Isaac Tesla, just to name a few. They've been very good drafting the last 4 years. Can they continue their momentum? I like that 17th overall pick. Last time they drafted this high or close enough to it, they got Jameer Gibbs, and he was a stud. Pick before that, also, Jack Campbell was right around that same draft pick. So if they can hit on them and they can hit on this guy, then Detroit, who has kind of taken a step back this past year, if they can hit on, I think really what they need is a secondary. If they can hit on a good secondary, then the Lions will be back. But they've been good consistently the last 4 years. Can they continue their momentum is the big question.
Yeah, they've been good consistently. It did seem like the past 2 years, though, they weren't necessarily layering those picks the same way they did the years prior, because I feel like in years before they were hitting on like those fourth and fifth round picks, where it feels like the past 2 years they've lost some momentum. So I do think this is going to be a make or break draft for Detroit. If you don't hit on 17 or 50, I do think that is definitely going to hurt you as far as competing with Chicago and Minnesota over the next 2 or 3 years here. So Detroit, I like it. You're a little bit below average, but there's definitely potential to bounce back next season here. And then speaking of your division rival in Minnesota, right above you at a score of 782, which is going to be 8 points better than the Detroit Lions. You have the Minnesota Vikings taking at pick 18, 49, 82, 97, 163, 194, 234, 235, and then 244. So now we're kind of seeing a couple teams in a row who have multiple picks later on. But I do like the Vikings having that pick 18 and 49 and 82, and then you get another one at 97 there.
Yeah, I think for them, they have Kyler Murray. He could be the face potentially for the next couple of years, quarterback wise. Maybe they find somebody to pair with Aaron Jones. Offensive line is pretty legit. The receivers are great. They have a good tight end core. So really, it's just can they bolster their secondary? Can they get a pass rusher for them? Then I think this team's in business. If Kyler can be 2021 Kyler, then this team is going to be one of the bigger sleeper teams come this next year.
Yeah, so that is going to be interesting. I like Minnesota there. Rounding out the teams that are ranked below average. And now we're getting to the team that has the most average score in the NFL draft next season at number 16 at a score of 817.2, which is only zero point 0.4 lower than the team right above them at 15. We have the Cincinnati Bengals, and they have pick 10, 41, 72, 110, 189, 199, 221, and 226. So you have 3 picks for the Cincinnati Bengals team that desperately needs help on defense in the top 100. Love that.
Yeah, and this is a make or break draft for Zach Taylor. This is a make or break draft for the Bengals as a whole. Because if they suck this upcoming year, they start slow, they don't hit on their draft picks, then we could see Zach Taylor out the door. We could see Joe Burrow saying, I don't want to play in Cincinnati anymore. So, very important draft. 10th overall pick. This is huge for them. Last year they drafted Shamar Stewart. He's basically going to be one of their bigger edge rushers for this upcoming year. Haven't been overly consistent drafting post Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase drafts. But that being said, 10th overall, and then they have an early second round pick. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, I definitely think being able to get a safety there at number 10 is going to be critical, or even a linebacker to go behind that defensive line that now has been revamped with Boye Mafe. Then you can get someone in the second level and maybe go for 2 secondary picks at 41 and 72. But love this for Cincinnati. Think this could definitely be a big draft to help them get back to the playoffs this year. So at 16, then I mentioned the team above them is only 0.4 points higher at number 15, and they also have a top 5 draft pick, and that is the New York Football Giants, or should I say the New Jersey Newark Giants, and we have them with pick 5, 37, 105, 145, 186, 192, and 193. So they have 7 draft picks here, but they're only 0.4 higher because Cincinnati has 3 picks in the top 100 and they only have 2.
Yeah. last year, if they can like last year's draft, they hit on most of their players. They got Abdul Carter, who was a beast. They got Jackson Dart, who could be their future. Cam Scattaboo, who was exciting. And now they have John Harbaugh. They have the 5th overall pick. I know who I want them to draft at number 5, whether it's someone like Jeremiah Love or they want to go after one of the big pass rushers. This team's close. If this is a good draft, just like what we saw with Detroit a couple of years ago, they hit on this draft, this team is going to be the most exciting team and probably this year's Patriots, where they double their win total, surprise a lot of people, potentially sneak into the playoffs. This is a huge draft for them. And I hope with that number 5 pick, if they want to, maybe Jeremiah Love gets taken off the board, or maybe they even bolster up an already good pass rush.
Yeah, and you could go out there, get someone elite in your linebacking core as well. And you could take someone like Sonny Styles from Ohio State. And really, your defense and your offense are both really good. I don't necessarily think it's going to be the draft that's going to be make or break for the Giants this year. It's definitely going to be Cam Scat and Jackson Dart stay healthy, which is going to be the big question mark. But even if that isn't the case, this one should set you up pretty well on defense for the next 5 years.
For sure.
And then 4 points above the Giants at number 14, we have the New England Patriots. And a big reason why the Patriots are at 14 is because they have 11 draft picks. And those picks will be taking place at number 31, 63, 95, 125, 131, 171, 191, 198, 202, 212, and 247. So again, a playoff contender with 3 picks in the top 100.
Yeah, and coming off the Super Bowl, a lot of people are saying they had a really easy schedule, which isn't necessarily wrong. They have their quarterback. They have Travion Henderson, who was a beast for them. Get a wide receiver. Hit on a wide receiver. You haven't hit on a wide receiver since Julian Edelman. Maybe this is when they do that this time around. Get a better offensive line. Will Campbell, after his injury last year, struggled quite a bit. Early on, he was looking promising. But bolster up your offensive line. Get a receiver to pair alongside Romeo Doubs. And then outside of that, their defense is fine. So I think that's what should be your main focus.
Yeah, I like it. Definitely think wide receiver, offensive line, and your defense, you really just need probably another edge rusher there. But you did also spend a solid amount of money in the offseason on top of this. So this is a team that was still rebuilding and was supposed to be in rebuild this year. So the fact that they have 11 draft picks, are still making aggressive moves in the offseason, signing a younger receiver like Romeo Doubs, definitely like this for the Patriots. At number 14. And then we have about a 53-point jump from the Patriots at 821 to the Houston Texans at 874, sitting at number 13. And that's because they have pick 28 and then an early second round pick at 38. Then they have pick 59, pick 69. Good pick to have. And then pick 106, 141, 167, and then 243. So, another contender last year that has 4 picks in the top 100. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and maybe
Offensive
they draft
line.
a replacement for CJ Stroud. Maybe they get all 5 of their offensive linemen because none of them are good. And then outside of that, their defense, pretty much every position is pretty well kept. Maybe they get after someone in the secondary, but this is another huge draft. If they can hit on some weapons, make that offense more formidable, this is a team that could win the Super Bowl if they have a successful draft. So, and if CJ Stroud doesn't have a heart attack in the playoffs. Those are 2 very big things, but if they can do both of those things, this is a team to be reckoned with.
I know. It's like, have you seen that video of Mitch McConnell freezing up on like the
Yes.
House or Senate floor? That's what CJ Stroud did in the playoffs. Literally the worst statistical run from a quarterback. He had the frozen, I don't know where I am, who are all these people around me face. So I definitely think that. And then, maybe go after a tight end as well, because Dalton Schultz did get hit in that playoff game. And then, there's not an excuse to have 5 turnovers in a game, but definitely I feel like drafting a replacement there. He's starting to get a little bit older. You probably signed him to your last deal. So I think a tight end could help as well, especially with the blocking issues. And then at number 12, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at 901, which is, again, another 30-point jump here, roughly. And they have pick 23, 54, 68, 98, 114, 137, 153, 178, and 197 here. So they have 9 draft picks and then 4 of them in the top 100 for a playoff team.
Yeah, and last year's draft didn't really set the world on fire, but the four drafts year prior to that, you get names like Cooper DeJean in the second round. You get Will Shipley, who maybe isn't a superstar by any means, but a nice, solid backup for good old Saquon. And then Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. You got Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Devontae Smith, obviously Jalen Hurts in 2020. So they've hit on a lot of their draft picks consistently over the last few years, which is why they've been one of the better teams in the NFL. Pick 23. We'll see where that goes there. They might also get a second first round pick if they end up trading AJ Brown. So this draft pick could get even better for them. But Eagles, I think they're positioned well. They're the best team in that division right now. And if they hit on this draft like they did in the past few years, then they'll be back in that mix for the Super Bowl.
You know, the problem with the Philadelphia Eagles this year having a draft pick at number 23 is you're probably going to try and replace A.J. Brown, and they can't.
Uh-oh.
They think they can draft wide receivers, but they are one of the worst teams in NFL history at drafting wide receivers. And who was their 2 best skill players in the Super Bowl versus the New England Patriots? Oh, right. Alshon Jeffrey and Darren Sproles. Are either of those players drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles? No. Saquon Barkley, is he a Philadelphia Eagle? No. You've drafted LaShawn McCoy. Sure, that's cool. I think they drafted Deshaun Jackson, but there's a long line of Philadelphia Eagles busts at wide receiver. And if they're going to go receiver in the first round, I don't love it. I think they can definitely hit on those defensive draft picks, though. And then you're going to go out there at pick 38, 59, probably going to try and replace someone like Nakobe Dean, who just left for the Raiders.
Now, here's a situation that would be comical to me, right? A couple of years ago, the Titans had A.J. Brown. They needed to pay him, so they traded him for their first round pick right around this pick, 23, to draft stud Traylon Burks. No. So they have pick 23 here. Maybe the Patriots are like, we'll give you next year's first round pick. You give us A.J. Brown. We take this pick 23 and replace A.J. Brown with that pick. They draft Traylon Burks too. Is that a crazy scenario? Maybe it's not the Patriots. Maybe it's any other team. But maybe A.J. Brown, what he brings with him is the curse of the A.J. Brown pick. The team that replaces him, drafting a wide receiver, failing miserably, this is a trend that could continue.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders have pick 36. Miami has pick 30. So, like, I could see one of these teams trading a first round or, like, even a high second round pick for A.J. Brown than the Philadelphia Eagles drafting Traylon Burks. That's not a crazy theory at all.
Traylon Burks, too. Every good movie deserves a sequel.
But that was the Eagles at number 12. They are at 901.8. And then basically a point better than them, we have the New Orleans Saints at number 11. And they have 9 total draft picks here, or it looks like 8. And they pick 8, 42, 73, 132, 136, 150, 172, and 190. So you have 3 picks in the top 100, but you do have a top 10 draft pick there as well, ranked at 902.
Yeah, and I've hyped up the Giants draft. I've hyped up the Bears draft. There is no draft bigger than this Saints draft in the sense that if they can hit on their top 3 picks, they already have their quarterback. Their defense is starting to repair itself. If they can hit on this draft and this is a successful draft for them, now we're talking about a team that is going to win their division in this case. Bucks are falling apart. Falcons, uncertain at quarterback. And then outside of that, you have the Panthers who are inconsistent. If they hit on this draft, they're going to win their division.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. This is going to be a fundamental draft, especially in the Kellen Moore era. This draft could probably make or break Kellen Moore's job, depending on how well the Saints are, as an organization, are able to do it. So you're like close to the top 10 as far as draft picks here. And the only reason other teams are ahead of you is because they have multiple first-round picks. So I do think the Saints are set up for success next year. So I like them at 11 with the score of 902. Then we now move into the top 10 draft picks, and this is where it gets really serious, where if you mess around here, you could be messing up the next half decade to decade of your franchise's future, specifically the Dallas Cowboys. Now it's time to cash in on that Micah Parsons trade. You have a score of 908, which is 5 points better than the New Orleans Saints, and you have pick 12, 20, 92, 112, 152, 177, 180, 218. But the picks behind 12 and 20 do not matter, because if you do not hit on those two picks, then we're starting to revisit that Micah Parsons trade. But if you do hit on them and you have a defense, you could be going to the Super Bowl.
Well, what I'm worried about with those 2 first-round picks, I'm looking at their history of first-round picks the last decade. Tyler Booker last year didn't do much. Tyler Guyton the year prior didn't do much. Mazzie Smith hasn't done much for them. 2023 pick. First round pick in 2022. Tyler Smith didn't do all that much. Micah Parsons in 2020.
How many Smiths are they going to draft? Jesus.
Serious. We got to see who's Smith in this draft. That's the guy they're taking. 2021, Micah Parsons. All right, that's a good hit. And then it starts to balance out. CeeDee Lamb in 2020. And then it goes Tristan Hill. Leighton Vander Esch, he was good for a little bit. Taco Carlton in 2017, massive bust. So kind of inconsistent drafting first-round picks over the last 5 to 10 years. They have two opportunities. If they can hit on both of those, then the Cowboys are back. But if they don't, RIP the Micah Parsons trade.
And I think Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb are two players who are like, duh. Like, those are two of the players that are like, you cannot pass up. These are generational talents. You cannot miss on these players. Same with Ezekiel Elliott. So the fact that when they're given too much room to think about it, they haven't been cashing in. What a whiff and wasted opportunity that trade would be, because then you're just stuck with the Drew Brees of like the mid 2000s, who was putting up like 4,000 yards each season, but going 7-9 each year.
Yeah, exactly. Big draft for the Cowboys.
And then at number 9, another big draft here. We have the Baltimore Ravens with the score of 921. And they have pick 14, 45, 80, 115, 154, 162, 173, 174, 211, 250, and 253. So they have, looks like, 11 draft picks here.
Yeah, and first-round picks for them the last couple of years. We have this past draft was Malachi Starks, Nate Wiggins in 24, Zay Flowers, Kyle Hamilton in 22, big hit there, Tyler Linderbaum, same draft. And then we have Rashad Bateman and Odafe Owen. So I would say fairly consistently hitting on their first-round picks. The last 2 years remains to be seen. But for them, I mean, we have Lamar, who's going to obviously be good for them. Derrick Henry. I would go out and get a first-round pick, potentially get a wide receiver to pair alongside Zay Flowers. And then defensively, they could use a better linebacking core. They do have Trey Hendrickson and Roquan Smith, someone to pair alongside them. Get a pass rush as well. But otherwise, I feel like their defense, with the new addition, with Jesse Minter, should be a little bit better. I feel like that's going to be their main focus, is building their defense back up. And then with some of their offensive lines that they've lost, building that back up again, those should be their 2 areas of focus.
Yeah, Carnell Tate span the defense button. And then, I think Baltimore will be in a good position. So definitely them at number 9 is huge, especially being close to the playoffs last year with the new head coach. And then at number 8, we have your team with a score of 94, the Arizona Cardinals. They have pick 3, 34, 65, 104, 143, 183, and then 217. So 7 picks here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Cardinals are not known for massively great draft classes. Usually they'll hit on one or two. Last year they hit on Will Johnson. He was good for them. Year prior, I don't even think they could say they hit on any. Marvin Harrison, kind of, still remains to be seen. But
Uh,
yeah, it's a gamble. I think there's better wide receivers in that draft already. Trey McBride in 2022, he was a hit for them. He's been good. But outside of that, Zaven Collins is off their team. Isaiah Simmons is off their team. Kyler Murray's off their team. Do I have faith that the Cardinals will land this draft pick? No, not at all. So remains to be seen what the Cardinals will do. Not overly optimistic.
all right, so tough love there for the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, I'm indifferent there, but I definitely think this is going to be a hit or miss draft for them. At number 7, though, we have the Tennessee Titans. This is a 80-point jump from the Cardinals at 944 because they have pick number 4, 35, 66, 101, 142, 144, 184, 194, and 225. So they have, looks like 8 draft picks in total. Or 9.
Yeah, and they're all drafting high. So this is a huge. I mean, we've said this about a lot of teams so far, but this is a massive draft for the Titans. They spent all this money in free agency. They have a brand new head coach with no hair on their head. If they can hit on these drafts, then this Tennessee Titans team could be a sneaky good team next year. Jeremiah Love could be available at number 4. He would be better than Tony Pollard. I'd like him there. Maybe you go after a wide receiver. There's plenty of good wide receivers available in that first round. Maybe you go there. But offense, offense, offense. Their defense, I think, is passable for now. Focus on building around Cam Ward. Get an offensive line. Get receivers. Get a running back. Take some pressure off of Cam Ward. That should be their focus.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not Jeremiah Love, it should definitely be the best receiver available there for the Tennessee Titans. So this is definitely a huge first step, and especially having a score as high as 125. This is one thing where if you don't hit on this draft, it's already a really bad start to the beginning of the Robert Saleh era. But if you hit on it, then the Titans are finally starting to come back into form here. And then at number 6, this team is 5 points higher than the Tennessee Titans just because of the sheer volume of picks they have. Do you know the Pittsburgh Steelers have 12 draft picks next season?
Oh my
And they're going to have pick 21, 53, 76, 85, 99, 121, 135, 161, 216, 224, 230, and 237. So you have 4 picks. You have 5 picks in the top 100 for the Steelers.
And it's a brand new head coach. They have 3 third-round picks, it looks like, 2 fourths. And this team historically is a good drafting team. If we look at the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a team that's been mediocre the last decade for the most part. They have a new head coach, but he's pretty seasoned around the NFL. They need an offensive line. They need some secondary help. They could use somebody to pair alongside TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, those gentlemen. So generate that pass rush again, build up that offensive line, consider drafting a running back in the later rounds. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, fantastic. If not, draft a quarterback. Probably still draft a quarterback regardless. And then maybe the Steelers are in business.
Yeah, and I think even like with 12 picks, if you hit on a quarter of those and you have 4 solid starters added to this Pittsburgh Steelers team, that's going to be enough to help this team get better. And then, they said they should have an answer on Aaron Rodgers, whether he's coming back to the team before the draft. So we should know that pretty soon. And then it sounded like Mike McCarthy is in love with Will Howard. So definitely interested to see Will Howard at some point this year. We'll see how he plays in preseason, and that'll be a pretty good indicator. But if you're the Steelers, you probably try on a quarterback, maybe like pick 76, 85, 99. Just take a stab in the dark. Can we get a Brock Purdy or a Dak Prescott? That's really what we're hoping for at that stage of the draft.
Yeah, I agree. And Will Howard, I think they drafted him in the 3rd round last year. Or no, 6th round it looks like. And he was good for Ohio State. He helped them win a national title. So Interested to see if they end up utilizing him this year or for years to come.
All right, so that's the Steelers. Then we get into the top 5 of the draft. We have the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a 60-point jump from the Steelers' mere 1,030 score. The Chiefs have a score of 1,092.8, and that is because they have 2 first-round picks, and they are picking at 9, 29, 40, 79, 109. Then they have pick 148, 169, 176, and 210 there. So they have, looks like, a 9 draft picks total.
Yeah, this is the scariest of all drafts because if they have a draft similar to what we saw in 2022 with Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Isaiah Pacheco, years prior to that, Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, this is a team that within one draft could be back in a dynasty very quickly. So I like this a lot for them, and I think if they hit on especially the 2 first-round picks, why that they don't know they no longer need a running back at 9, so they don't necessarily need to go that route if they don't want to. They can go a corner with Trent McDuffie, leaving that team. Maybe get another receiver if they so choose, drafting a replacement for Travis Kelce as he's getting older. Those are kind of the main focuses, but main focus should be secondary because they did make some losses there.
Yeah, secondary, definitely wide receiver for this team to bolster that unit. And then defense, yeah, just replacing Trent McDuffie. But the fact that the Chiefs have 2 first-round picks should definitely be scary for the rest of the NFL here. Especially they have a score in the top 5 here at 1,092. So that is impressive because no one else in the top 5 is expected to make the playoffs next year, if you ask the betting analysts. And at number 4, with the score of 1,133, we have the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns have 2 first-round picks, and they have the 6th pick, 24th pick, 39th pick. So 3 picks in the top 40. Then they have pick 70, 107, 146, 149, 206, 1 and 248. How good has Cleveland been at drafting over the past few years?
We know what last year's draft was pretty good. They got Harold Fannin. He was a stud for them. Dylan Sampson was fine for them running the football. Mason Graham was okay for them at best. But if we're talking about the history of the Cleveland Browns, this is not a team known for draft excellence by any means. Their top pick in 2024 was Michael Hall and Zach Zinter. Zach with a Z-A-K. And then Cedric Tillman was their top pick in 2023. Where has he been? We don't know. And then Martin Emerson. Greg Newsome, he was good for them in 2021. Jedrick Willis, who is now retired. Greedy Williams in 2019. The list goes on. Realistically, the last 7 or 8 years has not been kind for them drafting-wise. And the Browns are a team that I don't care if they have 260 picks in the draft. I'm not overly sold that the Browns are going to win it all over come this draft, especially with their new head coach. Who knows how good he'll be. So I don't care what the Browns do.
Yeah, and they could potentially take the quarterback that Dan Orlovsky has been pushing in this draft, or that he's paid to push above Mendoza in this draft. So, but Cleveland, yeah, it's definitely 50-50 if they'll take the right guy. We're out of the Kevin Stefanski era, so I feel like this draft is going to really be make or break how the next decade goes, because you have 3 picks in the top 40, and if those aren't all fire starters for you, this team's in a lot of trouble and in for a world of hurt, especially like your quarterback position is up in the air. And are they even going to try and address quarterback this year, or are we trying to run it with Shador Sanders next season? Only time will tell with Cleveland, but not looking great.
Not at all.
And then with the score of 1,208, at number 3, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, and that's because they have the number 1 pick in the draft, so they can get their guy in Mendoza. And then they also have the 36 picks, 67th, 102, 117, 134, 175, 185, 208, and 219. So that gives them 10 draft picks.
Yeah, and the Raiders, another team not historically known for drafting. Last year, Ashton Genty they take. He's been he had a bit of a rough start to his career, but part of that was his offensive line. Outside of that, not a lot of other guys contributed for them last year. Year prior, they got Brock Bowers. He's been a home run pick for them. But if they have an opportunity, if Francisco Mendoza is good, then they're set for the next decade plus and more. Um, but they have a lot of other picks that they need to address. They could go for another receiver. They could build up pretty much their entire offensive line, although they did get Tyler Lindenbaum. And then defensively, getting a good pass rush to pair alongside Max Crosby, or better yet, trading Max Crosby before the draft like you had initially planned. Then this team, we'll see how they end up building it out. But draft-wise, it needs to be seen before I can have faith in them.
Yeah, so that's the Raiders at number 3. And then with the numbers 2 score at 1,275, we have the Miami Dolphins. And they acquired the Denver Broncos pick. So now they have 2 first-round picks, and they pick at 11, 30, 43, 75, 87, 90, 94 with 5 draft picks or 6 draft picks in the top 100. Then they pick 130, 151, 227, 238 to round out a draft with 10 picks and, a lot of picks in the top 100.
Yeah. And those 2 first-round picks, one of them has to be made on a wide receiver. Right now, they're about to run out what might be the worst wide receiver class in all of the NFL. Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, Malik Washington. Get somebody to pair alongside Malik Willis, please. Devon Achane, he's a stud. I like Jalen right there as well. Your tight end is Greg Dulcich. Maybe draft a tight end if you so choose. Offensive line could use some help. Oh, defensive line could use some help. Oh, linebacking core could use some help. Oh, corners could use help. Better yet, maybe you get a new kicker at the same time. They got 10 positions. I hope they hit on all of them because they could use it pretty much in every part of the NFL team. So they could use pretty much every single pick. And if they hit on all of them, fantastic. But I don't have confidence that they will.
And the team above them, who has the highest score as far as draft value this year, in the same division, the New York Football Jets. We have the Jets at pick 2, 1633, which is basically a first-round pick. First pick in the second round. Then they also have pick 44, so 4 picks in the top 50. Then 103, 140, 179, 228, and 242. So they have 9 picks overall and 4 picks in the top 50. And my God, if the Jets don't hit on this draft, they're never, ever going to be good. And we should sell them and move them to Australia.
Well, how do they do the first year with Aaron Glenn? Their first pick was Armand Membu, offensive lineman for that stout New York Jets offensive line. Yeah. Mason Taylor, you probably heard Mason Taylor quite a lot. 44 catches, 369, 1 touchdown. Azariah Thomas, Orion Smith, Malachi Moore, who actually was okay for them, Francisco Mugwai, and Tyler Barron to shape it out. Previous years, we're looking at the Jordan Travises of the world, another offensive lineman that they drafted first round, who isn't on their team anymore. Will McDonald, he was okay for them. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jeremiah Johnson. That's the last time they've had 2 first-round picks or more. 2022 draft, that's when they had Sauce, Garrett, and Jeremiah Johnson. And then the year prior to that, Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker. So last 2 times they had back-to-back picks. One of them fared very well. One of them not so much. So Jets, it's great that they're ranked so high, but it's the Jets, and they haven't made the playoffs since 2010. I could keep pouring on, but I'll leave them alone for now.
Yeah, I'll leave them alone as well, and this is definitely one of the biggest make or break drafts of all time because this is literally like if you squander this draft, there's no hope for this team because no one wants to go to the Jets. If you don't hit on this draft, Breece Hall is probably going to opt for a trade instead of playing under the franchise tag, which is definitely a situation to be monitored as well. But that is all 32 teams where they rank as far as draft power. And then what we're going to do is also go over a mock draft as well to tie this together to see what the experts think that these teams are going to do. And then I pulled up a mock draft from Daniel Jeremiah. I put in a chat GPT who has been the most accurate when it comes to mock drafts, and he came up, and then Mel Kiper is one of the most known, but Mel Kiper is generally wrong. So this, according to chat GPT, has been the most accurate person as when it comes to mock drafts. So we're going to go ahead, kind of talk through this draft, and then we'll probably do our own mock drafts next week. So the Raiders, number 1, Mendoza. This is not really a surprise or a shock.
Yeah, that's the lock. That's the one lock in this draft so far.
And then seeing this one come up a lot, he has the New York Jets taking edge/linebacker Averill Reese. He says, I go back and forth between Reese and Texas Tech's David Bailey here, but Reese, with the ability and experience on the line and off the ball, gives the Jets more scheme flexibility in their 3-4 defense. Maybe he can get a pick too.
According to Mel Kiper, he also has Averill Reese. I have the Jets opting for upside Reese over the proven production of Texas Tech David Bailey. Reese has double-digit SAP potential in the NFL and can be a versatile player for Coach Aaron Glenn.
All right,
so 2 for 2, Hussar.
Mel Kiper also agrees there. And then at number 3 for the Arizona Cardinals, he has them taking Miami offensive tackle Francis Muangoa, if I'm saying that right. And then he is a junior coming out of college, and Arizona lands the draft's top offensive lineman. He is a plug-in and play guy at tackle, and I honestly like that. Their offensive line needs help, and that's definitely a position they should secure. So I don't have a problem with them taking a tackle.
Yeah, Mel Kiper agrees. Francis, offensive tackle for Miami. They did sign Elijah Wilkinson, but that shouldn't be their long-term solution at right tackle, says Mel Kiper. He is a plug-and-play starter, my top tackle in the class. So Mel Kiper, stamp of approval, just like Jimmy Clausen and all of his other successful picks.
All right. And at number 4, Daniel Jeremiah has the Titans taking Jeremiah Love.
I would love that pick for Tennessee. Tony Pollard, he's a fine running back, but you get Jeremiah Love, a guy who could be a top running back in the league, a fantasy darling. Love that pick for the Tennessee Titans. That could instantly make Cam Ward better. That could make their offense a lot more exciting. We saw what Bijan Robinson could do, what Saquon did for the Giants teams in years past. Love that pick for them. He's easily their best running back position. Love that pick for them. Mel Kiper has him taking David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Wouldn't hate that either for them, but I think Tennessee is mostly lacking offensively, so I would prefer them to take Jeremiah Love. David Bailey wouldn't hurt either.
Yeah, and they spent a lot of money on that defense. Also, when it comes to the Tennessee Titans, we've seen them take a washed Dallas Cowboys running back before with DeMarco Murray, and then draft Derrick Henry, and now they have Tony Pollard, and they could repeat history and take Jeremiah Love. Robert Sala has also seen how much a running back can really carry an offense when you have a bad quarterback, because not only did he see Christian McCaffrey last season with the 49ers, but also coaching the Jets with Breece Hall seemingly being their only source of life on offense there. So I definitely think he sees the value of a good running back there. So I would side with Daniel Jeremiah here.
I would agree.
And then at number 5, he has the Giants taking linebacker Sonny Styles. He said Styles would be a monster playing behind the Giants' dynamic front line.
Yeah, and I agree. The Giants, defensively, they have the Kayvon Thibodeaux of the world. They have the Brian Burns of the world. Dexter Lawrence as well. They get him alongside it, and he hits. I love that a lot. They already have a good linebacking core. Getting him to pair alongside him makes it even better. So I like that for them as well. Mel Kiper wants them to take Jeremiah Love. He forgot that Cam Scatterbo exists. I wouldn't hate it for the Giants. It'd make it exciting. But they already have a good running back there. I think you could draft another running back later in the draft to pair alongside him without using your 5th overall pick, which could be used on someone like a linebacker, edge rusher, something that's going to make that defense even better.
Yeah, I like Sonny Styles, make it a more dominant defense here. You already have Cam Scatterbo, so I don't see the value in taking Jeremiah Love at number 5. I think you have bigger holes to address. And then at number 6, he has the Cleveland Browns taking Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. Feels like the Browns need to land an offensive tackle and receiver with their first 2 picks in this simulation. They're willing to gamble on a first round caliber offensive tackle that will be waiting for them at pick number 24, selecting the highly enticing Tate here.
So they have them taking, Mel Kiper has them taking Mekhi Lemon out of USC.
Okay.
This is where the name test in the draft becomes a thing. Because if Mekhi Lemon goes elsewhere, I'm more optimistic for him. But if he goes to Cleveland and the Browns take Mekhi Lemon, we're going to look back at this draft in 5 years and go, remember when they took Mekhi Lemon over XYZ player? This is what happens with the Browns historically. I feel like the Browns need to draft a name that is normal. Baker Mayfield, fantastic. Myles Garrett, fantastic. Mekhi Lemon, bust if he goes to the Browns. I don't think he's going to be a bust, but if he goes to the Browns, just because of the gods that be, he will be a bust.
Yeah, a lot of players who go to the Browns this year could be busts just based off of where they're at as far as coaching and the quarterback situation there. But I definitely like the Carnell Tate pick better there, so I'll also side again with Daniel Jeremiah. And then he has the Commanders at 7, taking Miami edge rusher Ruben Bain Jr. Says Washington was aggressive to fill their needs at edge rusher in free agency. Bain has versatility to play from edge on early downs and then slide inside in sub packages, making him a nice complement to Odafe Owa and Lavavian Chason, or Calavian Chason.
And Mel Kiper has them taking safety Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. The instincts and versatility of Downs could instantly help a Washington defense that gave up an average of 8.7 yards per pass attempt. 3rd worst in the NFL. He is a consistent tackler with great ball skills, says Mel Kiper.
Yeah, Mel Kiper's
they could use a Caleb Downs.
Yeah,
Ohio
Mel
State
Kiper's usually wrong, though.
He is usually wrong. Safety, I think that position in general, they definitely need to address. Whether they take that with the 7th overall pick, I feel like there's more talented players here. But he's an Ohio State guy, and Ohio State guys tend to carry over to the NFL pretty well outside of the offensive quarterback position. But I wouldn't hate that pick for them. They do need a secondary, but I don't know if that's the pick.
Yeah, this is a pretty deep edge rusher draft here. Your next pick, though, is 71. So a lot of those edge rushers could be taken. And then if you do need a safety, though, a lot of the safeties could be off the board as well. So I honestly don't mind the Mel Kiper pick of them taking a safety there over an edge rusher and then maybe rolling the dice and then seeing if someone is there in the 4th round at edge.
Yeah, or even trading into it if they have to, because they have a bunch of 5th-round picks.
So definitely, I think an edge or safety there, but it is a deep edge rusher draft, so I would probably go for scarcity at this one. So I'll go with Mel. And then at number 8, we have the Saints, and then he has them taking David Bailey out of Texas Tech here. And then you said that Mel Kiper had the Titans taking David Bailey.
Yeah, and David Bailey, if he falls to the Saints, huge win for the Saints. Getting an edge rusher. He has them taking Sonny Styles. Linebacking pressing need for the Saints, no. Not after they brought back Caden Ellis, but I wouldn't let the exceptional Styles, who was number 5 on my board, slip any further. This, to me, feels like an ego pick for Mel Kiper, especially because they already brought in Caden Ellis. Saints have a lot more needs than just linebacker, so I think they should go somewhere else with this pick, whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a tight end, or whether it is offensive line help. There's a lot of needs the Saints have. I don't think going after a linebacker when they already brought back Caden Ellis is important enough.
Yeah, I could definitely see them being the ones to take Mekhi Lemon from USC if he does fall there. And then if David Bailey falls to them, I definitely like that draft pick a lot there. So far, I like Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft here. And then at number 9, he has the Kansas City Chiefs taking Spencer Fano, offensive lineman out of Utah. Says Fano can start immediately at right tackle and eventually kick to inside guard if necessary. Chiefs have excellent information on him because Andy Reid's relationship with former Utah head coach and BYU teammate Kyle Whittingham. So a little inside baseball going on here.
What we like to see. Mel Kiper has them taking the top tight end prospect Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. Travis Kelce is back in Kansas City. He's turning 37. Mahomes needs playmakers on this offense. Sadiq is explosive and versatile. I like this pick a lot. If they can get the top tight end prospect who's 6'4", 250 out of Oregon, he was the top tight end in this draft projected-wise. If he lands with the Chiefs and he's a hit, they get like a T.J. Hawkinson type build. I'm here for it. So I like it. I don't know if that's who they're going to go with, though.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to opt for a wide receiver offensive line. But I do like the pick for tight end. And, the next pick in this draft is the Cincinnati Bengals. And if the Chiefs don't take Kenyon Sadiq, the Bengals are going to be like, hear me out. I know we have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Chase Brown, but what if we added another piece to the offense and just try and create the best offense in history? You add Kenyon Sadiq at tight end at number 2. Daniel Jeremiah has them taking Caleb Downs, who's the safety from Ohio State, who Mel Kiper had going sooner. But I could just see the Bengals spamming the, I know we need help on defense, but more offense button.
That's been their button they've pressed the last 4 years. So if we're going with the most probable pick, they're probably going to draft him. This draft has Mashore Delane out of LSU, a corner from LSU. Bengals, DJ Turner and Dax Hill are talented, but Delane would be an upgrade on the outside where he can win at the line of scrimmage with quickness and instincts. All right, Mel Kiper. This is probably a good pick for them. I would go maybe linebacker to replace Trey Hendrickson, or maybe get an edge rusher, but corner, if you say so, Mel Kiper.
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah has the Miami Dolphins taking Mansour Delane at number 11 here. It says there's a lot of holes to fill in Miami's rosters. Dolphins have to solve the corner spot with Delane, one of the draft's most consistent players on tape. So kind of just going for a surefire player there.
And according to Mel Kiper, he thinks they'll take Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are gone. Route running ability, sure hands, and range as a pass catcher would give Malik Willis a go-to number 1 and would provide a boost to the Dolphins' lacking receiver room. He was very high on Corey Davis, so I know he knows wide receivers well. Carnell Tate for the Dolphins, I don't hate it. But I don't know if he's even going to be available. Miami should take a wide receiver, but whether it's this pick or later on, remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's like you sign Malik Willis. He's not necessarily your answer long term, so I don't necessarily think wide receiver is going to be on their top of the list, especially since Jeff Hafley is a defensive guy. So I do see them opting more for corner there. So I like Mansour Delane there. And then we have Dallas with their first round pick of 2. They have 12 and 20. And Daniel Jeremiah has them taking Gerard McCoy out of Tennessee, who is a cornerback. It says McCoy's draft is somewhat difficult to predict considering he missed all of last season with a ACL tear. We have yet to see him work out with scouts. His 2024 game on film is excellent, though. So you're potentially getting one of the best players in the draft. He just didn't play last season. So you're also taking a risk if you're Dallas there. So I don't know if Jerry Jones would really be into that.
No. Mel Kiper has them taking Ruben Bain, who I believe you had the Saints taking, if I'm not mistaken. Mission to fix the Cowboys' defense should start with the addition of Bain, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Hands of Destruction will travel to the NFL, and he had 9.5 sacks last year for the Hurricanes. Made it to the playoffs for the Hurricanes as well. This would actually be, I actually like this pick a lot for the Cowboys. You pair along him with Micah Parsons. And that defense looks a lot more interesting. So I think that's a big pick for them. I like that.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to go edge or corner here. Drafting someone who has missed a full year is definitely a gamble there for the Dallas Cowboys to take. But, you never know. So corner or edge is definitely what I see there. And then the Rams via Atlanta at number 13 are going to be taking Mekhi Lemon, according to Daniel Jeremiah. According to Ian Rappaport, the Rams were in on trade discussions for Eagles star A.J. Brown, which points to their desire to add a receiver. Lemon, the characteristics they covet in wideouts with toughness, strong hands, and the ability to pick up yards after the catch, especially with Puka's issues going to rehab.
So the Rams, he also has him taking a wide receiver. This might not seem like a need on paper with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams eating up targets in Rams offense, but there isn't much of them on the depth chart. Los Angeles reportedly explored trading Devontae Adams this offseason. He has them taking Jordan Tyson, who, if you're a fan of the show, you know how big of a fan I am, Arizona State fan. I would love this. This would be a huge hit, and you would know for a fact when they take him, there's two things that come there. Will they pay Puka Nacua, or will they trade Devontae Adams? Either way, Jordan Tyson would step in, and I think he would be an immediate stud for them.
Yeah, definitely think he would be a stud there, like either Jordan Tyson or McCollum. And especially if they get either of those guys, then you're looking at one of the best offenses in history, especially if Puka's himself. We get another solid year from Devontae Adams. Seemed like they're just missing some extra explosivity there. Daniel Jeremiah has the Ravens taking Jordan Tyson at number 14. So Tyson would be a fun new weapon for offensive coordinator Declan Doyle, who you might see some similarities between Arizona State type product player he coached with the Bears last season in Luther Burden.
Yeah, that would be I think the Ravens are probably a better fit than the Rams because he would probably be their number one right away. Mel Kiper has him taking Gerard McCoy, who had missed the entire season with a torn ACL. He mentions how Marlon Humphrey's on decline and Nate Wiggins is unproven. Like this for them, but also he missed the entire season. Ravens, I don't think they take that gamble. I think another team does. So I don't think this is what's going to happen in the draft.
Yeah, maybe you see them take a more surefire wide receiver there, but definitely an interesting pick with Jordan Tyson at number 14 there. And then at number 15, he has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Miami edge Ahmed Mesidor. So Tampa Bay's productive pass rusher, 35 and a half college sacks, including 12 and a half with Miami last season, who can set the tone off the edge with his physical play. So go in for a hard hitter on the defensive line. I like that for Tampa. Be a good energy infusion. Then he already played in Miami, so he's staying right in Florida. So familiar with the weather, humidity won't be an issue.
Yeah, and Mel Kiper has the same pick. In need of a pass rusher off the edge, high effort pressure generator who can step into the rotation right away, especially when you lose Levante David. Get somebody on defense that can have a spark for them, so I like that pick for them.
All right. And then Daniel Jeremiah for the Jets, second pick via Indianapolis for Sauce Gardner last year, has them taking Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. Says Cooper would be awesome to complement veteran receiver Garrett Wilson. Former Hoosier is a tough pass catcher who can play inside and outside, so he has them getting their linebacker and then getting a number 2 at wide receiver, which they desperately need, but, you know, Geno Smith is going to be your quarterback, so I would feel really bad for Omar Cooper Jr. if this is the case.
Yeah, and Mel Kiper has this as well. Solidified status as first-round pick with breakout 2025, 13 receiving touchdowns. Yards after the catch 7.3 and numerous clutch plays. He would pair well with Garrett Wilson. They do need a receiver, whether it's Amari Cooper or some of the other guys we mentioned. Could be nice. Did win a national title with Indiana. And he's got that yards after the catch. So could make the Jets a little more explosive. But Geno Smith. All he needs to be said.
Yeah, Geno Smith. So I feel bad for Omar Cooper there, but definitely be a tough one there. And then at number 17, we have the Detroit Lions with the first-round pick this year. And then he has them taking Monroe Freeling, which is a Georgia offensive tackle. Freeling has the most upside of any tackle in this year's draft, and Lions have to fill the void after parting ways with Taylor Decker. I like this pick a lot.
Yeah, I like it too. Played 18 games in college. Long and quick. His ceiling is high. He has the same pick, Monroe Freeling. They need offensive line help, losing Taylor Decker, so I like this addition there. And Frank Ragnar retired.
All right, scary. Back-to-back picks where Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper agree here. And then we have pick 18 at Minnesota. Let's see if this changes. He has Dylan Thieneman, Oregon safety, who's a junior, and he said, I want to find a different option for the Minnesota Vikings after slotting him here in my last mock draft, but every time I do this exercise, the Oregon safety ends up staring me in the face. At pick number 18, he is a perfect fit.
And Mel Kiper agrees. He says this might be the second most
Wow.
predicted pick in the mock drafts, behind Mendoza to the Raiders. Smooth moving replacement for longtime safety Harrison Smith.
Wow. Okay. So 3 picks in a row. Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper are agreeing here. So we're definitely on to something here. And then pick 19, we have the Carolina Panthers. Let's see if we can keep it going. He has them taking Texas A&M wide receiver Casey Concepcion.
And this is when the streak dies. He has them taking Spencer Fano, offensive tackle out of Utah. All 5 positions up front. He can still fill in at center as a rookie prior to moving to another spot. His first season, light on his feet and plays with urgency. Offensive lineman for the Panthers. They do need offensive line help. Wouldn't hate this pick, but they could also go a number of other positions. But if they need offensive line help, Spencer Fano fills that gap for him.
Yeah, I believe their left tackle got injured versus the Rams, so they definitely need help on the offensive line. I don't necessarily know if piling more weapons on Bryce Young is necessarily going to be the answer for him, so I would wait to pull the trigger on a wide receiver, and I actually agree with Mel on this one. I would go offensive line.
All right.
And then at number 20 for the Cowboys' second pick, he has them taking Clemson edge TJ Parker. It says Parker is a polarizing player this year after his production dipped in 2025, but he had a strong finish to the season, followed that up with a impressive performance at the Senior Bowl. So 2 gambles for the Cowboys.
Mock draft, who did they take at 12 in your draft?
It was Jermod McCoy. And he was the corner who missed all of last season with the ACL injury. Then he has them gambling again.
In this mock draft, they took Ruben Bain, the top edge rusher, 12th overall, and he has them. He says, double dip at edge in the first round for Dallas. Why not? A dominant pass rush unlocks any defense, and this would be Cowboys' 3rd major investment at this position off season. You have Bain, Zion Young, edge out of Missouri, and then they had that trade for Rashawn Gary. So if they want to just collect edge rushers like Infinity Stones, they take Zion Young out of Missouri. They have a lot of other fixes here. They already have Micah Parsons. If they're drafting Ruben Bain with the 12th overall pick and they traded for Rashawn Gary, this is probably not what's going to happen. I think Mel Kiper is just having fun with himself. Probably go out there and draft a corner or something like that, something that they could use.
Yeah, and we all know and have seen that Mel Kiper likes to play with himself a little bit, so I don't like this pick at all. I like them taking a corner and an edge rusher. Are they going to gamble on someone who tore their ACL? I don't know. And then TJ Parker, someone whose production dipped last year. I don't see them gambling at number 20 either for Dallas. So 2 picks, not in love with these Dallas picks. And then at number 21, he has them take the Steelers taking Blake Miller, who's a offensive tackle out of Clemson. He said Broderick Jones has underwhelmed at left tackle with Miller in the fold. Troy Fontano could move to the blind side in Jones' place, thus clearing a spot for rookie right tackle.
So they have him taking a guard at 21. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Ione, guard out of Penn State. Assuming Aaron Rodgers comes back, wait on QBs. Instead, here is Steelers' replacement for Isaac Ciamola. Is a powerful people mover who hasn't allowed a sack since 2023. Okay, like that. We don't like when they give up sacks. This guy hasn't allowed a sack since Joe Biden. We like that pick a lot.
And Daniel Jeremiah has the Chargers taking them with the following pick, and I'll just call him Ol AI Vavega Ione. And the Chargers think they're lucky stars that their need in interior matches up with the best players still available. Ione would be their most talented guard, getting a sneaking suspicion that this guy is a pesky Chargers fan. I looked him up earlier, and he was born in California, so Seems a little biased that the best player is coincidentally their need there.
I know. I like that pick better for the Chargers. Mel Kiper says it starts off. This is a bit of a projection, but 20-year-old Keldrick Folk out of Auburn has untapped potential. 7 sacks over the last 2 seasons. I see strength, movement, and length along with alignment, versatility on the D line. This is a classic Mel Kiper mock draft, and this guy is going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. Based on what I have seen here, I haven't done my research on Keldrick Folk too much, but this seems like it's Mel Kiper playing with himself again. They need offensive line badly. So that previous pick, he falls to the Chargers. He's a lifelong Bolts fan. Let the boy come home.
Yeah, let him come home. And at number 23, he has the Philadelphia Eagles taking Caden Proctor, who is a Alabama offensive tackle. And when it comes to addressing needs, Howie Roseman tends to be a year early instead of late. Right tackle Lane Johnson's now under contract through 2027, but the Eagles get some insurance for a 13-year veteran now. Proctor could also slide into guard if needed.
He has them taking offensive tackle, but they have him taking the Arizona State tackle Max Anacor. Lane Johnson missed 8 games last season, which caused their offensive line to take a step back. Also, why does no offensive lineman have a normal name? They never have a normal name on the offensive line. I think it's a tradition there. Has I said right tackle could provide a succession plan at that spot. All right. We shall see.
And then at number 24, Daniel Jeremiah has the Cleveland Browns with their 24th pick via Jacksonville, taking Caleb Lamu, Utah tackle, and he is a sophomore. Cleveland's gamble back at number 26 pays off, as left tackle prospect with first-round talent is still available here. Not projecting any trades in this mock, but if the Browns do indeed take a receiver with their initial first-round choice, it will not shock me if they look to move up from 24 for an offensive tackle.
Dig that. They have them taking Caden Proctor from Alabama. Dubious that Proctor will fall to this point in round 1. I wrote last week that he could even sneak into the top 10. But in this exercise, Browns feel their other need with Proctor after taking Lemon at 6.
All right. Mel Kiper or Cleveland, who's worse at drafting? Only time will tell. And then the Bears have the 25th pick. And they, according to Daniel Jeremiah, will be taking Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety out of Toledo, who is a senior. McNeil Warren has size, length, and playmaking ability, able to fill the void left by Jaquan Brisker. In fact, I believe EMW will be an upgrade at this position. So that'd be cool if they get a really good safety, similar to Amenahue did for Seattle last season.
Yeah. They have Mel Kiper has them taking Peter Woods out of Clemson. Best available player at this point, checking off a need, huge win. At his best, he's penetrating 3 technique who will help the Bears' run defense, which was 29th in yards per carry and 22nd in pass rush. Helps them with their pass rush here with Pete Woods out of Clemson. I like this pick for them.
That's an interesting pick for them as well. Safety, I feel like will definitely be a need. So if they can get EMW, I definitely think that'd be a good pick for the Bears there. And then at 26, I'm interested to see what Mel has them here, but Daniel Jeremiah has them taking Cassius Howell, who is a edge out of Texas A&M, and he says the level of concern about Howell's lack of length, which a measurement of 30 and a quarter arms will vary from team to team, but his first step quickness is unquestioned after he posted the fastest 10-yard split, 1.58 seconds of any player in the defensive line group in this year's NFL Scouting Combine. New Bills defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard comes from Denver, where the Broncos won off the edge Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, who both ranked top 5 in their position last year as far as average get-off rate, according to Next Gen Stats.
Mel Kiper has Avion Terrell out of Clemson. And this already starts off bad for me. Pre-draft hamstring issues aside, don't draft him. Don't draft him. Pre-draft hamstring issues aside, Buffalo Bills defense are all 85 years old We don't need another guy who could be hurt. But he says Terrell has a high-end ability as an inside or outside corner back and plays with toughness and feistiness. The Bills love at that position. Pre-draft hamstring issues, I'm not interested if I'm Buffalo. Go after another corner. Go after an edge rusher. Draft a wide receiver. Draft a tight end. Hell, draft a quarterback for all I care. Don't take them if they're going to be injury-ridden. They don't need that.
Yeah, and then Cassius Howell, who's someone who's a gamble as far as his arm length. That was also a question mark with Aiden Hutchinson. That's why the Jaguars didn't take him. But now, they could go there, get the fastest get off rate. And he's also a senior, so he should be fairly ready to play for Buffalo there. So I don't mind it. I'm kind of indifferent, though. And then for San Francisco, he has Kenyon Sadiq falling all the way to 27. Says this is the second time I've mocked up Sadiq to the 49ers this year. He would be an amazing toy for Kyle Shanahan.
And this pick is for Casey Concepcion, wide receiver out of Texas A&M. Tailor-made for Kyle Shanahan's offense. He's an explosive yak receiver who can line up multiple spots and capable of running any route on the route tree. Only problem for me is that he doesn't pass the name test. I wouldn't take him if I'm Kyle Shanahan. The name test, maybe it's not an exact science, but that, to me, does not pass the name test.
Yeah, it's like Casey what? It's like Conception, Christopher Nolan's next movie.
Concepcion? I don't even know how you pronounce it, but that just doesn't strike me as a 49ers player. Maybe it's not an exact science. I'm not a draft expert, but I'm not a draft idiot either. And I know when I see a bust, that looks like a bust for me.
Yeah, honestly, if Kenyon Sadiq does fall this far, I don't see it because I could honestly see a team like the Chargers taking him. Also, Philadelphia, I could see going for a tight end, especially Dallas Goedert. If you want to plan ahead for someone who could be taking a step back, then you get another weapon for Jalen Hurts. So I don't think it's realistic that he's going to fall to 27.
I don't either.
And then at number 28 for the Houston Texans, he has them taking Chase Bisontis, who is a interior offensive lineman. Says there's a lot of similarities, graded interior offensive linemen that I have in the second round range. I have a feeling this one is going to climb in a round run. In this case, Houston stays in state to add Bisontis, so he's already a Texas guy there.
They have him taking Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. Could use more youth at defensive tackle. And McDonald was the best at his position against the run in 2025. Sturdy frame and power make him a tough player to move around. I personally think the Texans should address offensive line. That was the reason why they lost, plus C.J. Stroud having a stroke. I don't think they need defensive tackle as much. Sheldon Rankins was good for them. Will Anderson on the edge is fine as well. Don't think this is their main issue here. So I don't know if I agree with that pick.
Mr. Mel! Offensive
Smell.
line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line if you're Houston. Literally the only thing you should be concerned about. And then
smell Kuiper, so
at pick 29, the Chiefs' second first round pick, he has them taking Colton Hood out of Tennessee, who's a sophomore. Said Chiefs land one of the most complete cornerbacks in the draft. Hood can cover and play the run, filling a big void in the secondary that is being rebuilt, specifically Trent McDuffie, who left last year.
And this pick, we have Kuiper take. They have Brandon Cease, cornerback out of South Carolina. I have both Chiefs picks in round one, and since I was offense with the first, I have to go cornerback here. Cease makes plays on the ball and it could help replace Trent McDuffie. In this draft, he also has him taking Kenyon Sadiq, so they get Kenyon Sadiq and a corner out of South Carolina to replace Trent McDuffie. If they do that, I like it a lot. I would like them to get Kenyon Sadiq, but I doubt they'll go for him. But I like this pick for Kansas City a lot.
Yeah, I like the pick there. I think, if they can get Colton Hood as a sophomore, he definitely has a lot of potential, especially with how good he was with Tennessee this year. So offensive tackle and corner, Chiefs still don't address wide receiver. I think that's fine because you probably get someone like Tyreek Hill, and then you can hit on someone later on in the draft. But it's definitely a gamble to not go after a receiver here. So if they do go out there and get a wide receiver, or you go out there and then you draft Kenyon Sadiq, I think that would be a better pick than what Daniel Jeremiah has right now.
Yeah.
And then at number 30, the Miami Dolphins via Denver, he has them taking Kendrick Falk, who is a edge rusher out of Auburn. So the Dolphins will need to address wide receiver after dealing away Jalen Waddle, but they are armed with a lot of day two picks to find value at that spot. With this year's deep class at that position, Miami fills another major need with Falk, who has versatility and athleticism to fit well in Halfley's defense. So he has them taking a corner and an edge with their 2 first-round picks, which I don't mind.
Yeah, for the Dolphins, he had them taking wide receiver Carnell Tate. And then with this pick, he has them taking Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who I think you had like 10 picks, 20 picks before. Continue to remake it secondary. McNeil's length and downhill ability should make Jeff Halfley very happy. Safety out of Toledo.
Yeah, he had the Bears taking EMW there, so I don't think it's realistic that he would fall to number 30.
But if he does, good pick for them. I think he could be a real stud.
Yeah, like I could also see the Bills taking EMW if he falls to them as well. But yeah, I think, taking a corner and an edge rusher in Kendrick Falk for the Miami Dolphins is a good strategy there on defense. And then after that, we have the Patriots, and Daniel Jeremiah has them taking Caden McDonald out of Ohio State, who's a defensive tackle. Says McDonald gives the Patriots a run-stopping force on the interior. He can also do the dirty work and let Milton Williams get up the field. I don't mind this. The Patriots did struggle a little bit as far as getting pressure to the quarterback. This will definitely open up the interior, and their defense was elite in the playoffs last year, but they did struggle to stop the run, especially in the Super Bowl against Kenneth Walker. So if you add in a tough physical run stopper there, you kind of already address some of your needs on offense. I don't mind going defense, especially I know Mike Vrabel is capable of coaching a team to being the best defense in the league.
Yeah. And Mel Kiper agrees here. They have them taking Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. Had the 22nd amount of sacks in this past season. Definitely need some pass rushers. Howell's an explosive pressure generator who can close on a quarterback in a hurry. So they both agree they should get a pass rusher there, and I agree. But I've already seen the future, and I know exactly who they're drafting. Wide receiver out of Washington, Denzel Boston. Tell me the
Denzel
Patriots.
Boston passes
Tell
the
me a
name
guy.
test.
Tell me the Patriots who need a wide receiver. See a guy with the last name Boston, drool dripping from their face, coffee, Dunkin' Donuts off their lip. They see Denzel Boston, they go, "That's our guy." Tell me that's not the Patriots way. They're going to take Denzel Boston.
That's our guy. That's the most
Wait.
fitting pick for a team since the Giants took Eli Apple.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. And I don't think Mike Vrabel is an idiot. So maybe the times have changed. But if this was Bill Belichick era Patriots, it would be Denzel Boston at that pick.
Matt Patricia would be in his ear like, "Yo, as your offensive coordinator, I think Denzel Boston is a stud." This is no hate to Denzel Boston.
No, Denzel Boston could very well be a very good player. He was good for Washington. There's a reason why he's drafted highly in this draft. But, it's the Patriots. That's just the Patriots way. They don't draft receivers well. Unfortunately, if he does get drafted by the Patriots, I don't have high hopes for Denzel Boston.
It'd probably be the second round. He might fall the second round to them.
Right now in this mock draft, it has the Titans taking him, which wouldn't hurt either. Jeremiah Levin, Denzel Boston, we could take that.
Yeah. And then speaking of offensive picks, and rounding out this first round mock draft here, we have the Seattle Seahawks taking Jadarian Price, who is a Notre Dame running back. He says, "I see a steep drop in the running back position this year. After Price, he would slide right into the mix in Seattle with Kenneth Walker departing, Zach Charbonnet coming off an injury."
Love that pick for them. That's a good pick right there. Mel Kiper ends it with R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma, edge rusher. Reminds the important ways of pass rushers. Thomas is relentless and can really bend the edge around the tackles. So they have him taking an edge rusher, which, after losing Boye and Mafe, I don't think that's a bad pick. R. Mason Thomas sounds like a name that could pass the name test, but we're going to have to see their combine.
Yeah. So that is Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper's draft. Daniel Jeremiah is typically the most accurate as far as who teams are going to take year over year. He has some really solid inside sources. And then Mel Kiper is just who people associate the term mock draft with. So let us know your mock draft below. Definitely interested to see. We'll probably do ours next week if we have time there. So that is it for our draft special. We were going to go over the NBA. We're already at 2 hours here, and the play-in tournament starts next week. So we might as well do a full episode dedicated to this season and then going over the past NBA Finals championships. I don't think we have time to do that today. So we can definitely push that to next week.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I
But
do see
playing
that.
tournament starts.
Yeah, yeah. Playing tournament starts next week, and the standings are pretty much solidified, with a couple of teams that could still slip from now on. But realistically, there's like 5 games left of the basketball world, and I feel like the most important seeds are all but locked up for the most part.
Yeah. The Thunder at 62 and 16 doesn't look like they are going to slip from the number one spot. The Detroit Pistons clinched the number one seed, and then it looks like the Celtics are pretty well solidified into that 2 spot. And now Cleveland and New York are really in a heated battle for the number 3 spot overall. It's really, would you rather play the Hawks or the Raptors there? And then Denver, I think, is going to get the 3 seed because behind them 1 game is Houston. I don't think Houston will have a better finish. Wemby got banged up in the 76ers game, and that's going to be the Nuggets' last game of the year. So if there's no Wemby, I definitely think the Nuggets should be able to win that game as well. But it is looking like we're on a collision course for LA and Houston in the first round, which would give us Rockets and Thunder in the conference championship, and then we would have Spurs and Nuggets if Wemby stays healthy and if Stephon Castle, who also got banged up in the game tonight, stays healthy. So I think that's pretty much set there. But after that game on Saturday, where it went to overtime, people really got to see the Spurs come into their own, and then also the term "everybody is better than Nikola Jokic" until it's time to be Nikola Jokic also came up in that game. Is Nikola Jokic, not only is he having one of the most efficient years ever, and again having an all-time great season, averaging a triple-double, leading the league in assists and rebounds. Did you know his expected field goal percentage on what should be making with as far as shot difficulty is at 47%, and he is shooting above 60%. And then it comes down to shots like he hit over Wemby fading away in overtime over one of the best defensive players in the league, and he was able to dominate that game. I haven't seen Jokic move his feet on defense that fast, especially the block he had on De'Aaron Fox. So I do think a lot of people are going to say it's Spurs or Thunder, but don't forget the Nuggets last year took the Thunder 7 games with essentially 4.5 players on that team. I mean, Aaron Gordon was too hurt to play in Game 7. He had a hamstring injury, and then they had no bench. They didn't even have like a backup center last year. I think it was like DeAndre Jordan. Now they have Valanciunas, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr. So you actually have some players who can come in, hit some threes, so it doesn't have to just be Jokic anymore.
Yeah, I know that for most of the season they've really missed Aaron Gordon. He's been out of the lineup for quite a bit. When they have him on the field, when they have him on the court, essentially, they're a top 5 defense in the league. Without him, they're less than stellar on defense, below average. So he's kind of the big key there. If Aaron Gordon's playing for them and he's healthy, which him sitting most of the season, and now that he's healthy again, I like that for them. They've also been on a barn burner. They've won 9 straight games to end out the season. They've now officially jumped the Lakers as the 3 seed officially. with the Lakers losing back-to-back games, and they've lost Luka and Austin Reeves for the season most likely. So Nuggets right now would match up with the T-Wolves, who are sitting there at the 6th seed. They look pretty solidified at the 6th seed right now. I like the Nuggets a lot. I mean, Jokic also dials it up in the postseason. This is a guy that's averaged a triple-double the past 2 consecutive seasons. And then come postseason time, he's a consistent triple-double there as well. So huge fan of Jokic. Did take the Thunder 6 games last year as well. If this team is fully healthy, then this Nuggets team can go toe-to-toe with the other 2 teams in the West.
Yeah, and it's really Aaron Gordon being the key there because the Nuggets also have the best offense in the league this year. They're averaging over 120 points per game, and that was without Aaron Gordon for most of the year. And if you watch the game Saturday, who is the one who had the big stop on defense versus Wemby? Like Aaron Gordon, he may not be as tall as Victor Wembanyama, but he's definitely stronger. So he did a good job at not necessarily letting Wemby get to his spot, and the fact that he was able to play as good of one-on-one defense versus Victor Wembanyama, and then you have that kind of stopper on defense for the centers that you're going to go up against. He can definitely push Chet around. And then if Jokic is going to be going up against Hartenstein, I think the Nuggets, they can get back to the finals this year. And if they took Oklahoma City 7 last year, we haven't had a repeat championship. I think they're kind of the team that's been sleeping all year long, and then I could easily see them in the finals because like Jalen Williams has been banged up for most of the season, shows Hartenstein.
And getting back-to-back finals, that hasn't been done since the Warriors. No other team has made it to or multiple finals this last 7 or 8 years, really outside of the Miami Heat in the bubble, and then what we saw in 2023 as well. In that Spurs game, this is the crazy part about Jokic, right? So 48 and 13, 3 blocks, 7 defensive rebounds, 0 turnovers. This guy is insane. Most efficient player of all time. Already in that conversation for best center of all time at this point. And then Wemby had 34, 18, and 7 with 5 blocks. Just out of this world. But I want this to be a Spurs Nuggets second round matchup. I feel like this would probably go 6 to 7 games. And I don't really know who comes out on top. I think Spurs is who I lean with right now. But Nuggets, they're a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. So I believe in them, especially because of how hot they've been entering the postseason, winning the 9 straight, and they have a few more games that are fairly easy on their schedule. So I think the Nuggets, their team, they got the Memphis Grizzlies, and then they got the Thunder and Spurs, who are probably going to be resting players these last 2 games. So like what I see a lot from the Nuggets and coming in hot.
Yeah, especially like, with the Nuggets, they have the experience versus the San Antonio Spurs. So I could see this being similar to a situation like when Oklahoma City played Dallas with Kyrie Irving and Luka, where it goes 6 games and the Nuggets just have more experience because you have Wemby for the Spurs, but when it comes to Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, are those guys going to be able to show up and make big shots in the playoffs? Because we've seen guys shoot really well in the regular season before. And then when the playoff comes around, are you going to still be out there making those big shots? So I think Denver, you know, they have the altitude, which is always something that's big, and they've shown they can score on this team. That's one of the better defenses in the league, and just having that experience, I do think the Nuggets right now, I would take them over the San Antonio Spurs just because of their experience in the second round. I think Jokic, he's coming to the back 9 of his career where maybe he only has about 3 to 5 years at his peak, so I think he starts to feel a sense of urgency. So I could see Denver taking out the Spurs, but the Rockets versus the Thunder, like, I kind of see the Thunders winning in 5 or 6 in all of their first round matchups. Honestly, if they ended up facing the Clippers, that'd probably be hard for them. And like again, like the Clippers are another team that if Kawhi goes crazy, I could see them pushing the Spurs to 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I think 6 games is attainable. Right now, with who they'd face in the play-in tournament, most likely, if we just go with the seeding, it'd be the Clippers. I don't think Golden State or the Trailblazers make it out of the play-in. So really, the Suns or Clippers. If it's the Suns, they probably sweep them. If it's the Clippers, I can see a Kawhi game where he takes a game, maybe two, but I don't see them beating the Thunder or taking them to seven. Thunder are much better all around, defensively, offensively. Clippers can grow cold, so I would still take them to win, but I think they can take a win. They could probably take a game from the Thunder.
And then, yeah, that's pretty much the West here. The East, I think it's interesting that Philadelphia is coming alive and they were able to rest Paul George. They lost to the Spurs tonight, but Joel Embiid had, let me see, he had 34 points in this one, which is huge for him. He was still a -7, but Wemby went out this game for the Spurs. He only played 15 minutes and 40 seconds, and the Spurs still beat them by double digits here. And then Stephon Castle again had a triple double. Basically, each time we're against the Nuggets. A couple weeks ago, Wemby didn't play. Stephon Castle had a triple double. He gets banged up in this game, comes back, and he has 19, 13, and 10.
Yeah, I'm not overly sold on the Sixers. I think I would like to see them beat the Hornets in the play-in tournament so that they face the Celtics because I feel like the Celtics match up against the Sixers very well. And then if the Hornets can beat the Magic or the all-time greatest scorer in Miami, that would set up Pistons Hornets, which would be a great matchup. I think the Pistons still take the series, but that's a series that could go six potentially, especially without Cade. And then the Celtics beat the Sixers in five, most likely. Um, I don't have much faith in Orlando. I just think they're too average. And then Miami, they don't really have much to go outside of that. Their defense isn't very great. Unless if Bam is going to average 80 throughout the entire playoffs, I don't see how they go very far. So I really like out of the play-in tournaments, I like the Sixers and Hornets to prevail. Sixers against the Celtics, Pistons against the Hornets, and I think that'd be the best for play-in tournament matchups.
Yeah, that would definitely. I think it should be a good playing tournament for both sides next week, and that'll all be on Prime, which is exciting this year. And then, really, in the East, it's going to be the question of how good is Jason Tatum going to be, and I will give you this stat. So Jason Tatum came back with a minutes restriction. So his first three games, he was averaging 27 minutes a game, 17.7 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Um, Once that restriction was lifted to 32 minutes a game, he's been averaging 22, 10, and 5. And he
Insane.
just had a 25, 18, and 11 game where Jaylen Brown also had, I don't know, 43 points.
I also know that who has the most double doubles over the last pretty much the entire season. He's pretty much all but averaged a triple double. He has seven triple doubles already this season, and he's only played 12 games. He's actually at nine now at this point. So within his first 14 games, he's had a double double 9 times, which is one of the tops in the NBA already. So I feel like he's back. I don't know if he's 100% Jason Tatum, but I think right now we're seeing about 80%. Shooting from the field, he's still kind of getting his feet wet there. But realistically, he's kind of just been their facilitator, moving the ball around, still matching the tone defensively. And if that's what you get out of Jason Tatum, with what Jaylen Brown has done for them this season, I trust that he can be their leader. He can be their main offensive scorer. And then obviously all the other guys that come around him, the Derek Whites of the world, the Peyton Pritchards, and all the other studs that they've been able to draft the last few years.
Yeah, and he also has the most playoff points in the 2020s. It's like him and then Nikola Jokic as far as points with 93 games played there. But I do think the Celtics team is younger and just a little bit more focused this year, especially what he was doing last night with Nimi Keita, where he has 19 points and then he was essentially just rim running. Jason Tatum was hitting him on all of these ridiculous passes, and he's still getting doubled. And he had one play versus the Raptors on Sunday where he drove past 3 layers of defense and just blew everyone for a dunk. And these last few games, it looks like he's really starting to get his legs under him. So I do think this is a not necessarily more talented Celtics team, but I definitely think a more focused Celtics team and a more younger team where we know Jaylen Brown's going to be the number one scorer. Jason Tatum is the facilitator, and then Peyton Pritchard, Derek White are going to get theirs, and then everyone else plays hard on defense. You also got Vucevic back, and then since Tatum has come back, Jaylen Brown is averaging 28.3 points, and before Tatum came back, he was averaging 28.9 points.
So it hasn't really disrupted his scoring outputs all too much at that point. So I think right now the Celtics are the favorites in the East at this point, especially after Cade goes down. Knicks, I think they're still a team that could go for the Eastern Conference Finals, but they're going to also right now face off with Boston in the first round, or second round, I mean, most likely. Um, so if they face head to head, the Celtics I would take over the Knicks. Um, Cavs, they're big, but I also just don't trust them in the playoffs. They haven't given me any reason to trust them. So if they face off against the Celtics or Pistons, I think they go down. Um, and then after that, the Hawks, the Raptors, none of those teams I believe in. It's really just the big four, and really it's just the Celtics that I trust the most. The Pistons, if Cade was healthy, I'd trust them to go far. The Knicks, they've done it, so I give them credit there. So that's really kind of it for them. And then the rest of the East, Hornets maybe have a fun first round series. Sixers maybe make it interesting. Otherwise, the series, all these series, I think will be wrapped up fairly quickly.
Yeah, it's like the Raptors, they had a strong regular season, but I just don't think they're built for the playoffs. And then again, I was watching the Hawks and Knicks today, and the Knicks won by 3, and Nikhil Alexander Walker had like 36 points in this one, and he had 20 points in the first half. So it's like I don't think the Hawks are really beat for the playoffs either. So I do think still Boston's toughest matchup is going to be the Knicks, especially Karl Anthony Towns is really who is going to give them trouble. So it's just going to be, can Mike Brown do it with the Knicks this year when Thibodeau did, and then could the Celtics have come back from down 3-2 if Jason Tatum didn't hurt his Achilles? So I definitely think the Knicks should still be favored because you look at the Celtics, they have Tatum and Brown, but if you have a couple games where maybe Pritchard goes cold or Derek White is in a shooting slump, like the Celtics team, like people are acting like they should be the by far favorites in the East, and I don't necessarily disagree, but I do think they're still beatable. I don't think they should just be 1A and 1B with Oklahoma City. It's like I know Jason Tatum is going to be really good and Jaylen Brown's going to be really good. This is coming from a Celtics fan, but like there are still question marks about like how someone like Jordan Walsh or Nimi Keita is going to play in the playoffs, and is Vucevic going to give you anything?
Is Vucevic going to be healthy also is a big question. I still think they have the most depth of anybody on the East Coast. Like the Knicks starting five I can trust, but what will we get out of Jordan Clarkson, Landry Shamet, the Mitchell Robinsons of the world? They've been proven in the past, and they've made it to the finals recently. But for the Celtics, they're deep. They have Peyton Pritchard. They have the Derek Whites. Shireman's been good for them this year. Jordan Walsh, Vucevic when he's healthy. So I feel like depth-wise, the Celtics have the most depth in the East. Pistons are banged up, so they have trouble. Cavs are historically fraudulent, kind of like the 2010s Raptors a bit there. So really, I think it's the Celtics and Knicks that are kind of the main studs in the East at this point.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it'll be definitely the Celtics and Knicks, and I definitely think the Knicks should, even still beat the Pistons. And honestly, this is the year that the Knicks should get to the finals. Like Jason Tatum is coming back from an Achilles injury. You've already beaten the Celtics before. You have to get the Pistons earlier than later. So like if the Knicks don't make it this year, it's going to be tough, especially like it seems like there's already some tension going on with that team. And it's like what players like OG Anunoby and Josh Hart give you on a day-to-day basis. They're really going to make or break your team.
Yeah, I mean Josh Hart's been good in the postseason so far for them historically. He's been a good rebounder for him. He's been a good facilitator, good shooter. Um, but what will you get out of the Knicks? I do think this Knicks team, Jalen Brunson, with the way he plays, how good is he going to be for that long? He's already going to be 30 this upcoming year. and he's taken a lot of shots. He's been kind of a grinder for them. So how long would that perform for them? We shall see. But still think the Knicks and Celtics. I want to see that matchup head to head. That's a 6-game, 7-game series potentially. But I still think the Celtics prevail.
Yeah, that'll be a tough 7 game series. So definitely excited to take a deep dive next week and go over all the interesting stats that came out of the regular season this year. Probably also go over that rookie class as well from last season once we have their final numbers and compare them, and then give you our play-in tournament preview. But before that, anything worth shouting out that you watched or listened to this week before we go?
So I told you about Tombstone. I watched Tombstone. Um, so that's kind of what I would shout out. Kurt Russell, you have Val Kilmer, just a classic Western. I also watched the um, Fistful of Dollars as well, Sergio Leone. So I've been just kind of in that Western bag. I feel like lately, um, that's kind of what I've been wanting to watch, and I kind of want to get more into it. I haven't seen like the Clint Eastwood Westerns. I feel like those are classics. I need to see what inspired Hateful Eight and some of those like inspirations for Quentin Tarantino. I think living in the desert, especially, I feel like I've been kind of spoiled because I've seen all these different Western towns already, but I don't know the history behind them or just kind of like the folklore of it. So that's kind of what I've focused on recently, watching those two movies, and then obviously seeing Tombstone myself. My next goal is to just watch some of these classics and then go back to where I was. Maybe not Tombstone, but go to like a Tortilla Flats or a Goldfield Mine place in those classic desert settings. I feel like now I can appreciate it, especially living in Arizona the last 2 years.
I like it. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check out Tombstone. Is that on a streaming platform right now? Is that just like TBS, Bravo TV,
It's on AMC Plus, which is gross.
AMC Plus? Did you
But
get
I
like a
rented
free
it.
trial for that?
Yeah, I got a free trial for it. I just decided to just immediately cancel it after the fact because I don't need to see anything else off of AMC Plus. But I needed to see it before I went to Tombstone, so I'm glad I did. I would suggest it. It is a good movie, and it was playing in Tombstone, ironically enough.
What are the odds? Yeah, I'll definitely have to
Yeah,
check that one out though. AMC Plus. Do you want to see season 24, the final conclusion to The Walking Dead? Who knows?
I'm good. What have you been watching of late?
So this weekend I rewatched Dazed and Confused,
Okay.
for the second time I've seen it. And this one was a definitely an interesting watch. You have young Ben Affleck and young Matthew McConaughey. This is kind of some of their earlier roles here, and it is a coming of age movie, and it takes place and is filmed in Austin, Texas. So that was cool to see. Some of the different scenery there. You have like Self Lamar in this one, and it's just kind of kids after the first day of school ends, what they do in the summer, and then you see like the jocks hazing the freshmen in this one and then taking them out to party. So just a solid coming of age movie, but it is a little bit weird at times, I will say, especially with like Ben Affleck and the paddles in this one. I'm like, okay, it's a little strange, and there's definitely some grapey vibes that come off with this movie. It's like I get it's like a different time, but this one's just like there's some times where I'm like, yeah, this is a fun movie, but it's also a little bit off-putting at the same time. Where it's like one of those classics where I'm like, this is a good movie, but I can't see myself coming back to rewatch this. Like I have to see Dazed and Confused because I know it's like a stoner cult classic, but I don't know. Is it on the level of something like that 70s show? I don't think so. As far as like stoner movies or Cheech and Chong or
Yeah. Well, don't tell that to Dustin Kahn. He'll be upset with you. But I think this is kind of. I think it's a classic stoner movie, um, fitting for the times. I agree with the grapey part, especially honestly Matthew McConaughey's character. He can be pretty off-putting. Like on one sense, he can be this like cool, chill guy character, But then like the comments about the teenage girls, like Matthew
They stay
McConaughey
the
was like
same age
20
while I keep
something.
getting older. Is what it
Yeah, I'm
said.
like that's a bit of a
A
yeah, that
little
was a
Chris
bit weird.
Collinsworth esque.
Yeah. And then outside of that, like there are other stoner movies, like even like Up in Smoke with Cheech and Chong, that I think are better. Sometimes this
Pineapple
is like a little
Express.
corny. Pineapple Express, other good one. This could be a little corny, and almost kind of I don't know, stale like the weed comedy genre a little bit. Is it great? Yes. Is it worth watching? Yes. Is it a movie you need to go back and watch consistently? No. I feel like if you watch it once a decade, you'll appreciate it. But if you watch it anytime between there, you're like, okay, yeah, I've seen this before. And also, I think this is a movie that I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with this take, but this is a movie that I think could be recreated with the right cast. This movie benefits from the fact that you have like four superstars all in one. You have fucking Ben Affleck, you have Matthew McConaughey, and there are some like '90s legends in there as well. This is a movie that I think could be recreated with the right cast and kind of more appropriate for the 2020s, while also being, refreshing a little bit as well. Because this movie came out in '93, and it's been a long time since then.
Yeah, and it's I like the freshman aspect in this to kind of like see what they go through in this one. But this is like one of those movies that it's like it is really good for its time, but it's also when you think about it, it's kind of generic too. Like it takes a little
That's what I
while
mean.
to get going. Like honestly, I was kind of bored the first 30 minutes of this movie, and there was a point where I'm like, this is almost like weird enough to turn off.
Yeah, yeah, I can agree with that. I just, like I mentioned, like it's kind of corny. It's a little generic. That's kind of what this movie is. Definitely a good movie. But I think there's other stoner comedies that are better. Pineapple Express, Up in Smoke. Those are ones, and then obviously like that '70s show is better, but still worth watching for sure.
Yeah, like compared to like other like coming of age, like in my head, I compare it to like TV shows where it's like compared to like Freaks and Geeks or that '70s show. I would take both of those over this.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And this director, he hasn't really made a lot of other movies. He did School of Rock as well. He's
Another
made a
kind of
couple of
corny
other
movie.
films that are kind of different from that, but yeah, outside of that, glad you checked it out. Is that the first time watching it?
It was the second time I watched it a while ago, and I didn't really remember anything that happened in it. So this was my second time watching it.
Yeah. Well, now I think you're good for at least a decade before you need to rewatch it again, if you ever do it again.
Probably a century, I'd say, if
Yeah,
I make it.
fair enough. Hopefully you do. But next week, we got our mock drafts coming to you. The Brickyard, set in stone. Who will be taken, who will not be in that first round. We'll also cover the NBA playoffs, which are bound to start after this upcoming Sunday. So we'll be here next Monday to cover all things Brickyard mock drafts. Most importantly, though,
Stay